Did you think this day would ever come? Did you think that we would be here celebrating tonight? Make America great again. I confess, I confess. I'm exhausted. What a week it's been. I know you all have spent the entire week on your phones, checking the memes, checking the results. Are we tired of celebrating yet? Of course we're not tired of celebrating yet. MAGA, welcome to the Mosaic Ark. Yes, we did it. I don't know how we did it. I don't know who did it. I did you have you slept in days? I mean, God.
Not much, not much. 20 winks here and there. I think the election night, I didn't want to go to sleep. I didn't want to sleep. I said, no, they're not doing this again. No, I'm not going to sleep
Oh my
until I see a
gosh.
result. And even so, I was still surprised to see one that early. Obviously, pleasantly
Yeah.
surprised, but early. I say early, 3:30 in the morning. 3:30 in the morning. Yeah, and it was like it's like there were three of us in your chat that stayed the entire time. It was me, Fat, and I think John Carter was there.
Okay,
It's
okay.
like three.
Well, that I
That was
mean,
like
to
three
be
o'clock in the
fair,
morning.
I think John Carter's on a different time zone, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure he was popping into different places too.
Yeah,
But yeah,
calling
it
from
was pretty
Mars, like
fun.
waiting for
Yes,
Elon to show up already.
right. He's the rival party. Yeah,
I
I have my stars and moons and planets scarf on here
have my
in honor of our.
crown, my gold hat. I might actually have to keep it on for the entire stream just to, get used to the idea that we can wear it.
Proudly, proudly, yes.
Oh my gosh. So how
Oh,
I mean, it's like I'm reporting as you all know from the former Obama neighborhood.
that's right.
I
Yes.
has it been wailing and gnashing of teeth and horror and actually no.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, to judge from what I've seen in real life. Okay, I did vote. I did vote on Tuesday in the neighborhood. Um, there hadn't been any Harris Waltz signs up at all, right? With that Chicago had a big discussion about our school board.
All right.
And
Yeah.
so there were signs and stuff up for that, right? The different candidates for school board, the competing factions, the CTU and the Chicago Teachers Union and the not CTU, the Harris Waltz signs didn't even go up until the day of the polling, right? The Democratic committee was clearly
But now,
slow in putting them out.
why do you think that was?
I think they didn't
Do you think it was,
care.
you think they were angry that they didn't get to vote? They didn't actually get to vote on a primary?
No, I think it's just like so we've seen the maps. We're gonna have some maps. We have all sorts of like right now we're just gonna go. He's done it again and celebrate for a little bit here.
Yeah.
Um, I think voting here is entertaining because having a choice in candidates is rare. Right?
Yeah.
You go in
Yeah.
and it's like, Well, I don't get to fill in any of these because there's nobody I want to vote for from a party I want to vote for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think it's just it's one of those enclaves where the Democrats just don't need to exert any effort because they feel like they've got it locked. Now, whether they have Illinois locked, like
They
we
don't.
do know that
Mhm.
outside of my county, there was some differences.
Yeah, it's always going to be different around academia because it's not going to truly ever reflect the neighborhood directly around it because people come from all over
Mm-hmm,
and they
mm-hmm.
kind of colonize it there and they tend to all think a certain way. It shouldn't be like that, but currently it is like that. I hope that changes, but I hope there's more diversity of thought in universities going forward. But you can see it
Nah,
all over the
it's never
country.
gonna happen.
There's
No, and the thing is,
Well, you don't know. Did you see those pictures from Auburn?
from where?
Auburn University?
Oh, really?
Auburn
Really?
University?
Don't give
Oh
me
yeah.
hope. No, no, no. Come on. I've had my
Look
hopes
it up.
crushed too many
You
times.
will you will be very happy to see that. I mean, there were VMI photos out. That's not really a surprise. It's Virginia Military
Oh,
Institute.
right.
But then you had Auburn University where all the students were out cheering and running through the campus in the middle of the night, and it's hundreds
Really?
of them.
Oh, that's
Yes,
unheard of.
hundreds
It's
of them.
I did see the little video of the VMI, right? I think, right? The one
Yeah,
with the guys
yeah,
are there's an
yeah.
announcement in the middle of the night and the guys cheer.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
right.
Yeah, look up Auburn University. It'll make you feel good.
Well, that's nice. No, but so I maybe we should talk about the maps when we're looking at the maps. So that's fair.
Okay,
Um, but yeah,
so
so
much to think
yeah,
about.
so I went and voted, and it was, oh man, it rained like torrential rain on Tuesday, which meant that the rest of the week was very pleasant because it's all been
Got it
like
all. Yeah.
it's been quite, not too cold, not too hot. The trees are still beautiful, and basically, the neighborhood, my neighborhood, the University of Chicago neighborhood is totally calm, at least as far as I've seen. Kids are going to school, people are walking their dogs, the men look happier.
They do everywhere, everywhere. People were playing that all over social media. The clip from the Barbie movie where Ken goes into the real world and he finds out there's men
There's
everywhere and they have
men.
real jobs and and he can't wipe a smile off his
There's just a
face. It's kind of
spring
like
in their
that.
step.
Yeah,
Quite sweet. And I don't know
yeah,
how they
it was.
voted, and it doesn't really matter. They just look, you know,
Yeah,
fucked up.
right. Yeah, right.
Like my dog does when he's having a good time.
Did you call men dogs?
I call them male. I call them masculine. And it's like, no, it's like,
Yes.
and I sort of, and they look at me, and of course I look like what I do, right? Actually a Gen X hippie, but we'll get to that too. And I could just see that they're sort of, I know that like these are the same kind of workman guys that I would have seen all, previously, right? And they're a little, they're often a little, you know, not deferential in the sort of bad way, I would a good way. Wait, no, they're just, they're always deferent. The work tradesmen that work around are always very polite and always and
Respectful.
respectful, and guys like
Yeah.
do electricity and gardening and garbage and stuff like that. But the
Mhm.
the ones I've seen around in the last few days, they just look cheerful. And since most of
Yes.
them don't live in our neighborhood, right? They come from the suburbs to do the work
Right.
in the city. So
Right.
I've seen the voting maps from the outside outlying areas. They may have voted
Yeah.
for him even
Yep.
since he wore their
Yeah.
he wore their colors in the last few weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. So did Jill Biden. I didn't get that on the meme, but that was
Oh,
pretty interesting.
yeah. No, every so it's gonna be we ladies of the Mosaic Ark are here committed to watching the memes and the mythologies playing out, and of course 4 years ago on January 20th, the ladies who were attending the flag inauguration, since nobody was allowed to be there, I thought they very specifically chose their colors to be veil-like imperial colors, right? There was like the
Oh
purple
yeah.
and the blue and so I don't for a
Yeah.
second think that Jill Biden wore pure red pantsuit by accident to vote.
Wasn't an
Like,
accident.
what?
Wasn't an accident. Well, at the Al Smith dinner, which Kamala Harris skipped, the comedian there was Jim Gaffigan, and he made a joke about that. And it's funny because I'm a little slow guy. Sorry, I know it's hard to believe, but he made a joke about unknown Trump voters, Democrats who are unknown Trump voters, and he said, "I think their name is Biden," right? And he made this joke, and I didn't really get it. And then I saw her wearing red, and I went, "Oh, it's spite." Okay, I get that. Yeah.
I said again, there is okay. So there is no way I forgot you. So she put the memes together because she's the one who stayed up all night and deserves to guide us through this meme lore. But which one's next? All right, we got Dom. Here we go. Oh yes, yes. Like so, why we have to keep celebrating? Kalokagathos, which is a good name for the Twitter site, doing the meme of Aragorn. A day may come when we get tired of winning, when we cease gloating about libtard tears and stop reposting their suicide threats. But it is not this day. It is not this day. It is not this day. How?
No, it isn't.
Do you? I mean, you remember 4 years ago? I remember 4 years ago. I was recalling. Today is my dog's birthday. Not the dog that I have now, but the dog that died 4 years ago.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Right?
It's just a bad
Oh
year
my
all
gosh.
around,
Well,
wasn't
and
it?
she died, but she died like October 27th. I have her urn, right? Because I, of course, have her urn, and
Yeah.
it's got her death date on it, right? And today's her birthday.
Oh,
So
and today's her birthday.
this time 4 years ago, I mean, we were in lockdown. We were,
Yeah.
you know,
And none of us knew what was going on either.
none of us knew what
Yeah.
was going on. You know, my dog had just,
I know, that was harsh. Yeah, she got very sick.
oh yeah, like from this wild blood disease that just, you
Mm,
know, no platelets, no white blood cells, no red, just like bone marrow must have shut down completely. She just had no blood.
yeah.
Vampires got
Oh.
her. Right.
Mm.
And then very soon after that, my stepfather went into the hospital and died. So you know, I have confused memories about what happened 4 years ago, but I'm pretty sure I didn't go on camera and cry about the election
Or scream,
or scream. Yes,
or make kind of self-serving.
yes, we've watched some of them.
promises.
We've seen you crying. Very sorry that you're feeling so stressed out and freaked out, but that's not our fault.
I gotta say, some of these women
I'm now
were
getting comment from the back, but you're not on stream. No commenting.
peanut gallery.
I don't know what he said. Anyway,
Not
carry
all
on.
of these, not all of these women, but some of them, I distinctly thought they're not producing tears when they're crying. So definitely a lot of them were acts. Some of them were sincere, but some of them were acts. You know, I've had a toddler who threw fits and, you know, cried without tears before. I know what it looks like. So I think a lot of it's quite performative.
Well, they're doing it
And
on camera, right? So it's, I mean,
right, I mean,
that's
well,
the
no,
first step to think. It's like,
yeah,
yes, guys, we know what it's like being on camera. We perform.
yeah.
So,
But I think a lot of these people get on camera that aren't being performative. They're just, I think they don't look at it that way, but some of it clearly was just performative. You know, some of the crazier ones too. If anybody ever watches his education, he goes over memes every week, and he went over the meltdowns. You know, of course, a lot of people are doing that.
Okay, so the thing is, you're more skeptical than I am about those, right? Because I think they're actually genuinely scared. I think they're genuinely
No.
upset and
Well, it's the cry bully. It's some people pretend to be genuinely scared because they want to affect a reaction in their audience.
well,
It's a tactic.
yes, but okay, so I remember back when I was less public and therefore had a more ordinary Facebook life. Um, every year around the time that I started recognizing it was around the time of my father's death day. and I just get really depressed, and I'd always have this like go on Facebook and say, oh, I'm feeling so down and everything's a disaster and stuff like that. And then I'd feel better, and then oh gosh, it's that time again. Um,
Uh,
that I know the feeling of feeling abandoned and scared and needing to go on the social media, right? To
mhm.
say something, right? So I actually think when they're crying, I mean, I now don't make me go study all the crying, whether they're really
No,
crying or
no,
not crying,
no.
but
Some of them are.
yeah.
Some of them it's sincere, but some of them, I question some of them. But I am skeptical
Well,
by nature. So
they're, I mean, I think if it for the ones that are sincere, they're going online because they're genuinely scared, and online is where you do these things, right? It's like you go to online for comfort, right? So I mean,
I
some
guess
of them,
that's
yeah,
I
some of them are
yeah.
saying you should, how dare you have voted the way you did, and we're like, well, maybe if you listened to us for the last 4 years, you would know.
Yeah, I can't relate to that. And that's maybe obviously that's a generational thing. You're gonna go on. I mean, I go on social media, talk to strangers all the time, but usually they're about fun topics, or sometimes they're
Mm,
about important topics. But I try not to get in flame wars, right? But what's more inflaming than filming yourself screaming and beating your head against the dashboard of your car?
yeah.
You know that looks performative to me.
Well, okay, so I grant you that there's a temper tantrum performativity to it, which is
Yeah.
I mean, temper tantrums are sort of real in a lot of ways, but so where they were coming from and why they were so upset, we don't want to talk about that tonight. We're going to carry on. We are going to have the
Speaking of,
sun rising over the flowers.
it's morning in America.
This poor woman. I mean, she's become like the marginalia of modernity, right? All of the particular like they're medieval characters that get drawn like
Yeah,
drawn into all of the margins of, and this she gets to be the
that's a perfect
scream.
name for that because she's a field of tulips now. It's like medieval marginalia. She's been turned into a tulip.
Well, maybe she'll feel
Oh,
happier. I don't know. I mean, it's yes. I like the. I'm having flashbacks on the one hand to 2020 in the sort of like when we went to sleep and woke up and we're like, what? Well, what just happened? Okay, so fine. I'm actually
yeah.
I think in okay, I'm anticipating all the memes, but I think in story terms this is even better. Right?
Yeah.
Having the loss and the comeback. It's like we know the script. Um
Yeah.
but the I was thinking about we did this day in 2016 when everybody was crying and screaming and in disbelief, and you will okay, one, we are not a split household in terms of voting because he can't vote in our elections. It's
There.
so there. And he's proud of it, right? So I'd say, guys, my husband's English, right? And this is traumatic for him because of course November 5th is the other day, right? We their election was on July 4th this year. Our election is on November 5th, and those are in fact the twin days where you have fireworks, right?
That is so weird. That happened this year. That is
Yeah.
bizarre. I hadn't
Yeah.
thought of
So
that.
they had their elections on our firework day and we had our elections on their firework day. It's like so
On their
confusing.
bonfire
On their
day.
bonfire. Yeah, but they do
Yeah.
fireworks too.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. Yeah, so they
Okay.
do, bonfire, and it's like they don't have a July 4th cuz they never rebelled against. Wait. Okay. So which is the we and which is the
Wait a minute.
they, and is the American sun rising over the field of English poppies, or I don't know. You shared something on about why we never have done in the United
Oh,
States
yes.
5th of
Right.
November.
It's because of George Washington.
Yeah.
George Washington stopped it because he wanted to make allies of the French Canadians.
Ooh.
And a lot of them did ally with us. And he was horrified. he was horrified that they would be acting so poorly, so badly towards the neighbors that they were trying to get help from.
Right, the Catholics.
And he said, the Catholics, he said, this stops now, right? And it did. It stopped right then and there.
Okay, so why is Fat saying turn on YouTube low, not live on YouTube, ladies? Yes, we are. Where are you? Why is Fat saying we're not live on YouTube?
I don't know. Maybe there's a delay.
He's apparently on. I see us. I see people chatting. Okay, guys who are in the YouTube chat, are we live here? Are we live? Oh, not live on YouTube. Well, go over to unauthorized, sorry. Or on Telegram.
Telegram's really good quality.
YouTube.
It's super
They're
easy to
saying
sign up for.
not, okay. So you guys got to come to Telegram. Come to Telegram.
Yeah. The video and audio is fantastic there.
Yeah,
I think
that we support Pavel. Come on, get over on Telegram.
Yeah, that too.
That okay. Too. So Daydreamer, thank you. Good on Telegram and unauthorized. So just watch on Telegram. I don't know what happened to YouTube. We get to come to Telegram.
They don't like our gloating. We've been.
I don't know. I definitely fed it into the. Okay, so forget that. This means I can.
It'll be on YouTube later.
It's the same crowd. Just guys, hang out on Telegram instead.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, so I could try to fix this. Should I try to fix it? I don't know if I can in the midst of all of this. Don't forget it. Right, I need our pictures. So, because I need to know where I'm going next. The poppies. Oh, yes. Speaking of Canada, right? We've been seeing. Are the celebrities leaving yet? Right? Have they gone away? Are they still there?
Okay, now here's this. There is something unique happening in that area. Apparently, a lot of celebrities, the most ironically named America Ferrara, now want to go to Britain because, Mean Orange Man is president again, so they're going to go to Britain. This is new, so they're not going to Canada anywhere. They don't say why. They never wanted to go to Mexico. It's kind of racist.
Some of them do. Some of them want to go down to anyway. Go ahead. They want to go to Britain instead, not Canada.
They want to go to Britain, and I don't know. That's just something new I learned today. There's a couple of them that said that. I'm like, Britain? Why Britain? I don't know. I mean, their tax burden is going to be ridiculous. But okay, you do you.
Well, this is. I mean, I'd say. I appreciate Tucker Carlson the whole time on all of this, that he was saying I'm not going to go somewhere else. This is my country. I'm going to it's like like none of us said, oh, if Joe Biden becomes president, I'm leaving.
Or when Bill Clinton becomes president, or when Bill Clinton gets reelected,
or if Obama gets reelected after the first time. I'm gonna
same
leave.
Here 2 times.
Like all of it's like guys, you're
that's my home.
Yeah, this is our home, and that's why we want to make it great again. And so you're this constant saying, I'm gonna leave if you don't.
No,
if
it's
you
ridiculous.
Don't have the kind of well, then it's not your country.
No, it's not.
Frankly.
It's just a place where you come to earn money.
Yeah.
And have people give you things you want, and you throw temper tantrums and pick up your ball and go to some other person's home instead.
Yes.
You're running away from home.
Yes. Keep running away. Well, this is what I liked this one. The Democrats are all of the fancy dress party, and the Republicans.
That was spot on.
Is the Republicans, is that Hunger Games? What is that?
That's the Hunger Games. And it's actually really good because in the cities in the Hunger Games, the people are, they're addicted to fashion, they're addicted to plastic surgery and looking perfect, and games and living a very cosmopolitan life. And everybody else in the country, all the hobbits, right? And all the shires, they're pretty much slaves to the cities.
Oh, those are both from the Hunger Games. Both the pictures are.
Those are both from the Hunger Games. So that's the districts that are outside of the capital.
Right.
The capital, like Washington, D.C., where all the beautiful people are, right? Or Los Angeles, Hollywood, where all the beautiful people are, and everybody else is outside and supports them with their labor.
Right. Yes.
Right? And it was it was a pretty striking image. Whoever thought of that, good job. I don't know
Well,
who originated it,
I
but
mean,
yeah.
and it is completely accurate. Although I keep getting to go to LA for a variety of reasons, including going to that exhibit last week. There's not that many beautiful people in LA. They're hiding somewhere,
Well,
right? It's like
it's
the people.
yes, they don't want to. They don't want to mix with the
Yeah,
rabble. Come
they're
on.
not walking around on the streets and
Yeah,
riding on on the buses
yeah.
and stuff like that. So,
No, they're getting private tours to those museums, and they've got private rooms for their restaurants, and they've got private doctors and private
yep,
schools
yep.
and private neighborhoods
Oh yeah.
with probably armed guards, I'm guessing. So yeah, they don't mix.
Well, no, and the
So that was a
city,
good meme.
this is, yeah, and the thing is, then they're using the city in the same way they're using the country, right? It's like
Yeah.
LA is incredibly expensive to live
Yes.
in for everybody, not just the people that can
Yeah.
afford the mansions on the hills. And
Yeah, but it didn't always used to be like that, though. I think
right,
25 years ago it wasn't like that. The only place in California that was like that was San Francisco. That started getting prohibitively expensive for working class people 50 years ago.
mm,
But the rest of California wasn't like that. Even 25 years ago it wasn't like that. So that's a
the
new thing.
ridiculous housing
Yeah.
prices. And so I actually, in prepping for our celebration tonight, was listening, finally got around to listening to the 3 hour Joe Rogan Trump interview last night, driving
Oh,
around
did
in
you?
my city going to trying to get to fencing practice. And one of the things that they brought up was the water problem in California, and Trump
Mm,
was actually just posting about it today.
really?
Yeah, that it's okay, everybody's, I know we're not live. Please be here, and I'm sorry. Please be here.
Sorry.
Yeah, watch on Telegram. I don't understand why it's not live, because I set it up. It wouldn't it's re
I just thought of something funny.
no, a Restream. I use Restream to feed it to all these different places so you guys can hang out with us in all these different places. And I know that I went into Restream this morning and tagged this show. So it's Restream just did some update or something, and it looked a little different, and probably I didn't turn it on.
Hmm.
Hang out in Telegram. So
I was going to say, Elon, could you buy YouTube too?
yeah. Yeah, yeah. I didn't forget. Okay, fat is I didn't forget. I didn't forget. So, guys, okay, behind the scenes problems of our, Hollywood level production here, to stream in all these different places, I actually use a feeder through restream.io, which feeds to all of them. So when I go live, if it's live on one, it should be live on all if I've set everything up correctly. But to go live, see how clever I am that I had to figure all this out by myself? Where's the guys? Right? It's like I'm certain that once I figured out, like, figuring out how to be on Substack and stuff like that, I've usually learned things that nobody else has been able to tell me how to do.
Okay, yeah, I want to say, people listening to Professor Rachel Perlton Brown out there, she has a lot going on up here. She is doing so many different things all at once, all the time. So
Yeah, I was
a
writing a
little glitch
talk
with
this
YouTube.
week too on something
Yeah, in
completely
between all
different,
of
all the
this,
medieval.
yeah. But I mean, just the tech stuff that you do as well. I don't do anything. I'm like, it took me 6 months to have my Skype stop freezing on us. You know, I
Thank
don't
you.
do these
Fair
things
point.
things well.
Make the Mosaic Ark
You know,
great again. Yeah.
there you
So
go.
with when I turn this on, it should go out to, so if it's gone out to the places that you all are able to hear this right now, it's working, right? And I'll have to go in and figure out what Restream IO, please, you can tell me how behind, because I know I turned it on to make an event in this stream today. Do you see how it's? Do you think they
Okay.
appreciate me yet? Oh, and see,
No,
this is
nobody knows what you're doing.
no,
So
nobody knows what we're doing. So here, I one day I'll be Mel Gibson. Somebody tell Mel Gibson what we're doing over here in the Mosaic Ark. I did see Milo's been. Oh, sorry, I in that I forgot. Oh, okay. 5 layers in. Joe Rogan and Trump gave me a new word for what we do. It's the weave. Have you ever heard this before? Yes, it's
oh,
very
did they come up with that?
I don't know. They were
Oh,
talking about it on the stream, and
okay.
Trump will start off and he'll go and he'll be telling some story about that the one he was really enjoying was what it was like being on Air Force One, I guess. I don't know. It's whatever plane they were
Uh-huh.
on, and he was going. I'm guessing, right? If unless he's telling stories, um, going into the conditions where they were going to deal with ISIS, right?
Oh yeah, I heard
Yeah,
that. Right.
and
Yeah.
and he's
They
he
landed blind.
and they landed blind because they had turned off all the lights, and the guys, and he's so cute, right? He's like, these guys were from Central Casting. They're better looking than Tom Cruise and
Yeah.
taller.
Yeah.
Or no, maybe taller, right? Like that. And these guys are really, really great.
Yeah.
And that, but making the point of our military can do the things that, it's like they took out, I
Yes.
guess they took out ISIS in a few weeks, but they don't get the orders. If they don't
That's
get the
right.
orders from the generals, they're not going to do it. So,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
okay. So, this what Trump is obviously appealing to is saying, look, the control level is where you guys hear about all of the problems, right? But Americans function, right? And that's
Mhm.
it has been one of the things that's important and frustrating to realize. It's like you guys are trashing academia all the time. Okay, fair. But
Well,
there's a lot of academia that does like care about education and want to
yes.
be better
Yeah.
at what we're doing.
I think, but see, I think we trash academia because we do respect it and we get really
Yeah.
frustrated hearing about the goofy crap that goes on
Mm-hmm.
that shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be happening and the goofy and the goofy programs that are being promoted at the expense of good ones that shouldn't be happening.
Right.
And if we didn't love and respect academia and wanted to succeed, we wouldn't be so angry.
Exactly.
I think
Exactly.
we as in the public. Yeah.
No, I mean you do. I mean, and this is I will say this, right. So I before we started and I got my hat and I got to start and everything. Um, I'm feeling kind of black pilled because everybody's going, you know what? It hasn't solved everything. I'm seriously, right? It's
Sorry.
like we're celebrating on Tuesday night, going, they didn't manage
Oh
to steal it
gosh.
this time.
Yeah, 4 years. You waited 4 years for this, and you're upset because nothing's happened instantaneously on day two before he's even been
Well,
inaugurated.
actually, a lot's already happening before he's even been
I know.
inaugurated.
I've been paying attention. I'm sleep deprived
I mean,
and a
the
little
the
bug
number of
eyed.
countries that are suddenly going, uh, oh, we remember what we do now,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
that came out.
Oh shit! It's woken up. That's the vibe from the rest of the
Yes,
world.
the world's
Oh
like, oh,
shit!
wait. Did the
Yeah.
America's like back, right? Instead of
Yeah.
we can just carry on. I do think I'm feeling happier now. That's nice. That the okay, listening to Trump last night with Joe Rogan, doing the weave and getting in there and everything, and I'm trying to weave back into what I was talking about before with the water in California. And they were
Yeah.
talking about I do remember Victor Davis Hanson, who apparently is not a Trump fan. I don't remember where I've lost track of what VDH has been saying. But there is this problem with the water that's, if they could put the water down through the middle of the state, you'd have farmland productive,
Yeah.
but they can't.
Well, he grew up on a farm in California, so he would know. Victor David
Yeah, and
Hanson
he
did.
lives in the country now, but there's something wrong with there's a fish that they can't that the river has to be sent out into the ocean, so there's no water. It's something like that, and it's quite complicated, and it means that like there's no water for LA, or LA
Hmm.
sucks it all out, or who knows what, right? It's like there's huge water rights discussions going on in
Yeah.
California, and Trump was describing it to Rogan, and they looked up a map or something that was like, yeah, there used to be this big lake and it's all gone and such. And now I've forgotten what the point
Yep.
was here. Oh, you were talking about how California used to be more affordable.
Used to be
It used to be
affordable.
affordable.
It used
Yeah.
to be more, right. And a lot of that is too much. It's too much migration and immigration into the state in a short period of time. I don't think that helped.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. But it's a big state. It's a very complex issue, especially with the water rights that were given to a lot of these farmers more than 100 years
Right.
ago in
Well, this
perpetuity,
is
and it's changed.
I want to learn more about California. I'm very obsessed and interested in California now. Once I now understand that
It's a beautiful
Los
state.
Angeles is the city of Our Lady of the Angels.
It's a fascinating place. It's a beautiful state. The agriculture there is interesting too. Now, I read years ago. This is just a slight side trip here,
The
of the
weave.
mind.
We're gonna do the
That
weave. We
yes,
can,
the
if
weave.
they can do it, we can do it. It's not that we can't stay on topic. We're
Yeah,
weaving.
yeah. They grow almonds in California, and
Mm.
they've been and they promoted them for decades, and it's a lovely product, but it takes a lot of water,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
maybe they promoted it a little bit too much,
Well, I have the
But
same
I don't know.
when we go to the Texas, right, and they're growing cotton in the high plains with no water, and they're pumping all the water out of the
Yeah,
Ocala aquifer. Water rights are big.
yeah, they
Water
are.
rights are the now that I live on Substack a little bit, Daniel Sawyer had a piece this week on like where the water is, right? That's where the
Hmm.
politics, never mind the stuff, the climate change stuff, which is obviously a hoax. Um, the distraction from exactly who has access to the water, where it is, what it's being used for,
Yeah.
enormous. Land is
Yes.
nothing for human beings without water.
Right.
And
And I'm very interested to see what Trump's agriculture picks are going to
yeah.
do. Very interested because the agriculture has been it's been focused on cash crops. It's also been focused on growing intensive growing of crops that have huge yields
Mm.
that you can use to feed people. But we've fed the world with it. But it's another complex issue. You
Right.
actually end up destroying the land by doing that,
Right,
right?
right. No, it's like
So
you
it's
use too much of the
yeah, good
topsoil and it
intentions, but
salinates, and then you end up with Iraq.
yeah, right. So you might have
Or
you might have had good intentions, but then you end up destroying the land and not being able to grow anything for anyone.
right.
So yeah,
So this is, we're this time, me voting for Trump in 2024, it's like, can we please actually do real things rather than the nonsense hysteria things that is. I do think most of the things that I'm seeing people cry about online, I like take the women who are crying about it's like, we're not going to have sex anymore at all. I'm like, I mean, the guy's going,
it's too easily
your
mockable.
terms are acceptable.
Terms are acceptable, right? Your terms are
we,
acceptable.
we
Yeah, I
actually
don't want.
want you to
Yeah,
have
yeah.
families and not kill your babies. So
Oh, these, Adrienne Curry is very active on Twitter, and I shared one of her tweets with you, and she's talked about she used to be everybody was a lefty in California and in Hollywood where she
right.
was, and she was a more of a right leaning lefty as she described herself,
An
and she
80s
said when she found
liberal. I mean, isn't that what, if we're
right,
voting for Trump, isn't that what
yeah,
we all are now? Right.
yes, yeah. So she said when she found out about the Very Fine People hoax, it was like I think
Right.
she said she was sick for a year,
Yeah.
when she found out about it. She's like, because it was such an obvious lie. He's like, well, what else are they lying about? This was so obvious that what else are they lying about? She said, and her point was, be a little easy on these people after this election. I'm, this is what I'm saying. It's really tempting to make fun of people. And some people will make fun of. We'll make fun of people who say, I'm going to leave the country.
Yeah, because
They
they're
deserve to be
rich.
mocked. It's
If
absurd.
they have that
Well,
ability
they're
to
rich
say,
and
yes,
spoiled and
I'm going to leave
ungrateful.
because democracy has died because too many people voted for the thing I didn't
Democracy's
want, right? And you're
right.
like,
It's dumb. Yeah. It's just dumb. And I will mock stupidity from
oh, wait,
people I
our
expect better
propaganda
from.
wasn't strong enough to overcome your propaganda this time, right? This is
Well, it shouldn't be propaganda. It should be an exchange of ideas. That's the thing, right? It should be. And it's propaganda is used because you don't think you can convince somebody of your idea.
right.
That's
Right.
why.
Now this
And
is Barbarossa going deep state. It's not possible. Trump surviving 6 indictments and 2 assassinations. Not probable.
not probable. Yeah. Yes, we love Jack Sparrow. Yeah, I do think the deep state is freaking out. At least half of it. Um, I just I have a feeling there's been infighting in there for a while.
So I
Just a feeling. Just that's all it's based on. Just I can't. I'm too short for the ride to be pretend to be directly, involved in any kind of actual political analysis. So I will just say I'm standing back watching this for the past 4 years, for the past 8 years, actually, for the leading up to the 2016 election. And I could sense something was really off. I just didn't know what it was.
Yep.
And I think we're starting to see a little bit more of that weave together a little tighter. So it's coming into an actual whole cloth now that we're going to be able to see more.
Right.
And I think, right, we'll get to that graphic in a bit, but you'll see why when you analyze people on the internet are just doing a basic analysis. Now I am tall enough for that, right? A basic analysis of the votes that came in 2020 versus 2024.
Right.
You can't deny that.
Well, so the deep state concern, I have, a tiny number of colleagues in academia who actually are sane, and one of them worked with Trump on the major economic committee, Casey Mulligan, and he's written a book called You're Hired, right? And I'm about halfway through it now. I bought it a while ago when I met him, but I think maybe didn't have the heart to read it now, and I'm reading it now. And like the deep state is real. I mean, it's the federal bureaucracy of people who's there. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate their concern. It's like if you're in academia, you get tenure and you feel like you have permanent. One of the things he said, so he had a sabbatical from teaching in our econ department, and so he only worked for Trump in 2018, 2019, and he wrote a book about his experience there. But the amount of stuff he says they were able to do in that time, it's like all of the stories about how local it's, it's inefficient and chaos and stuff like that. And it's like, no, we were writing reports, right? We wrote like 14 books worth of reports in the year I was there, or in the time I was there, right? So that they were, in fact, doing the job and then leaving, right? And then somebody else would come in and do the next job. Whereas the bureaucrats that are in those Washington positions, they move to Washington, they want to stay there for a long time. Like it's disincentivizing to finish, because then you're done and you'd have to leave. Right. And right. I think the thing I appreciated this listening Trump talk to Rogan. I mean, and I think I kind of did get this before. He's a businessman. He's got, this is the task. We're going to do this task. That's why he likes Elon, I suspect, although I'm curious about Elon and his government contracts. Anyway, you have a task, you get the task done. That's it. That's not what the people who live in Washington and work for the government want to do. They have a career. They want to be in the career. They want to stay there.
Well, most of them, unless they're appointees, they are going to stay there. Right. It's really hard to get rid of them because of the Civil Service Act. And so they don't have to produce anything. There are certain offices that do have to produce stuff. Right. Like the inspectors general, they have to report out to Congress twice a year. But if they don't do that, what are you going to do? Right? It's hard to fire them. Not impossible. Right. But I mean, hard. This is the so a lot of people don't want to do
definition of bureaucracy, that it's like, it exists as itself. So, I mean, and therefore, their fear for their jobs is realistic, I think.
Well, no, the appointees' fear for their jobs is realistic, but the people underneath them who are outside of the senior executive service, they're not going to get fired, and that's where the bulk of the employees are. Mm-hmm. Right? They're not going to get fired. So there is a lot of waste and duplication of effort, and people have been noting that for years, and nobody's done anything about it.
Right.
But that doesn't mean, and this is Trump's biggest strength, he comes in as an outsider and says, well, who says you can't do it? I'm going to do it. And he does it, right? Reagan was the same way, right? It's like when the air traffic controllers went on strike, which is an illegal strike. People hear strike and they go, oh, I'm pro-union. No, government unions don't have the right to strike. That's not a right they have. By law, they have to stay on their job. So they did an illegal strike, and Reagan said, oh, I'm just going to replace them with our military air traffic controllers, so we won't have any disruption of service, and I'm going to fire them. And people said, you can't do that. And he said, hold my beer, right? Yeah. hold my jelly beans. Was it jelly beans? Is that him or is that Bush? I can't remember. Anyway, so yeah, and he got rid of all of them, and then he made them reapply for their jobs. So if they wanted their jobs back, they can get it. But he said, no, you've done something illegal. Now legally, I can get rid of you.
Okay.
So there are ways to do that, right?
Right.
And they don't have to do something illegal either, because they're not, nobody's entitled to a federal job. This is what people outside of Washington D.C. understand,
Mm-hmm.
right? But inside Washington D.C., because it's that, like, that's, if you're not working for a university or a student, you're working for the government in some capacity, or you're dependent, but in some way, upon somebody in your family who does.
Right.
And so it's very insulated, and it is like a separate culture.
Well, that's what I'd
Completely
say.
separate
Academia
culture.
has the same, desire, tenure.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, yeah, that we're in this situation where, because of the way the administration has grown and not the faculties, right? It's
Same thing with government.
yeah.
The same thing with government. The administrative jobs increased, and that increased under Obama.
Mm-hmm.
Like 20%. It was something ridiculously huge, right? It was bloated, right? So the people who were working for government, who were actually producing reports, because that's what you produce when you're the government, you produce reports, right?
Right. Right.
They their numbers didn't increase, but the administrative processing type jobs increased. So very similar. Interesting.
We've lost our audience. We're just talking to ourselves now.
Oh yeah, we're talking about boring governments.
Well, okay, so maybe we should talk about Star Wars, right?
Okay. Yeah, are you guys here? We're just having a conversation.
We'll just talk to her. I am upset. I like the YouTube. It's like, where did it go? Okay, so we got a few in unauthorized. Why it should be working in Telegram?
It should be. I've never seen it not work there. It's usually a few seconds ahead of unauthorized.
Yeah. I don't know why it didn't go on YouTube. The government, it's the government. They're already silencing us. I hate that I've lost my mojo now.
I can see that.
It's yes, we're talking about the government jobs, and here we go. The New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, the Empire. We're still in the Empire, right? He's not yet inaugurated. We have this transition time.
I still cannot believe they did that crap. What were they thinking?
Which?
See, this is the Dark Brandon, right? This is The Empire Strikes Back. And apparently the people in his administrative staff thought this would be a great idea. And they came up with the name Dark Brandon. This is the rumor going around anyway. So what were they thinking? This only lends, credence to conspiracies that are like just occurring today, that Biden was in on it the whole time.
Okay, so
Sorry,
the level of
but I can see why somebody would believe that.
Yeah, no, this is an important thing to talk about. It's like, so it's all scripted, right? It's like I've been reading that today from people that otherwise I've found entertaining and thoughtful about, the degree to which things are happening behind the scenes that we can't see. But it's all scripted, and it's all scripted into the movies, and the preconditioning is all happening. And this means that what just happened now was predicted in the 80s, right? You guys, this is medieval level.
Yes.
Of looking for prophecies. Right. It's like
well, you do have the letter from Pat Nixon, who said, you will make a great president. Yes. She sent a letter to Trump.
Yes.
Because she saw him on Oprah.
Well, many people go around saying, "Oh, you would be a good president." So the number of times that kind of thing is said versus the number of times it actually comes true. Like my favorite. So I do read Miri AF on Substack, and she is quite entertaining. But one of the things she pointed me to in her essay today was, "Do you know what MAGA actually means in Latin?" And I'm like,
"Oh, what does it mean?"
Witch.
I saw that.
Apparently, it means witch. And I'm like, okay, so I'm Glinda. I mean, it's like, yeah. So
that's what does Maha mean, though? I don't know. I'm a big Maha fan.
I don't know. And the amount of gematria that I see going on around there. Do you know this added to that means this and that? And I'm like, the only number game I care about is AD. Right?
Yes, it's the only one that matters. Yeah.
Do you know if you add 2 and 2, it makes 4? So 2024 means that sanity is returning. You're like, Okay, I definitely know how to do this if I read and
Make numerology great again.
make
Yeah.
numerology great again.
Excuse me. Oh my goodness. It's so entertaining. So grateful for it to be so entertaining again. Oh my goodness.
Well,
This is
yes, and
lovely.
this I mean, so the level of the level of entertaining, right? So we can definitely laugh at Mark Hamill because he is a incredibly rich from these movies. Although he didn't get to have much
Oh,
of an acting career after the movies, right? He ended up in he worked
oh,
he's
yeah.
acting in a lot of video games and stuff, right?
Cartoons,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, voices.
Poor
I think
guy,
he can
right?
do
He gets
impressions pretty
three
well.
great movies and then gets to spend the rest of his life going, no. I am your
More than
I
most actors get, though.
very
Most actors just
fair.
toil away in obscurity.
I was sorry to see Harrison Ford doing one of the, we must they did black and white, side lit him and I couldn't listen to it. I just like forget it. You're, either you're Indiana Jones or you're
Yeah.
he rescued one of my friends in a his helicopter once, but um
Oh, you told me that.
yeah, but no, you're not telling. And the thing is, I do actually respect him because when I obsessed enough on Indiana Jones a week or so ago, his family is lifelong Democrats. I'm like, okay, fine, right? It's like you're just sticking with your party. That fair, fair, fair. But don't be preaching to us about how
Well, that's
when
it. He is preaching because
we know that what happened was the Democrats abandoned the working class. So there. And
he's
all the
preaching.
Bernie Sanders voters know it. All the kids know that we're worrying they get that Trump is actually talking to the working people.
It's a religion.
Mm.
It is a religion. Now, I've met people who were generational Democrats, and it's unthinkable of them to be anything
Right.
else
Right.
because party affiliation, union affiliation, and church affiliation, three big things in a lot of working class
Oh yeah,
neighborhoods.
yeah. So you're not gonna go against either your church or your party. Yeah.
Right. You
Right.
don't go against your church, you don't go against your party, you don't go against your union. And there's a lot of people like that. My grandfather was like
Right.
that. You know, he has three sons, all boomers. We're not like that. But he was very much like that where he grew up. So it's not unknown to me, this type of attitude, especially not someone his age. I think he's in his 80s now.
Mm-hmm. Ford. Yeah,
So
Ford's in his 80s.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, so this is what's just like this would be a nice the last 4 years if people could have said, like, I respect why you took the position that you did. No, we have to like
Mm-mm.
jail our friends. And Julie Kelly I did meet Julie Kelly once. I got to have lunch with her, and she's done amazing work for American Greatness, reporting all the stuff on the J6 cases.
Wonderful.
We're very happy that Nick Ox was released,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
the charge vacated, right? So it's like they were in
Hmm.
prison for nothing. And
Yeah. They better pay him.
I do blame, right, the sneering it's like for the most part people that actually know me on campus have been very decent. So just we'll say that,
Hmm.
but there is an undercurrent, right? And occasionally stuff comes out and it's like, yeah, you believed that, all of these guys, it was actually and I'm like, yeah, no, you guys are nuts. And
Yeah.
not to be able to look at us and say, look, I get that you disagree with us on the best way to, give water to California, but I respect why you, wanted to try that thing rather than this thing. No, we get to be called demons.
Yeah. They'd be completely demonized. And yeah, um, it's Mao's Cultural Revolution.
Yeah.
It's the French Revolution. It's Jacques. That's it. You're done.
Right.
Get out.
Right.
It's scorched earth, and they might get some of it back, not on a personal level, but like people in positions of authority who abused it, they definitely have it coming for sure.
Well, I mean, the best thing to Trump just could fire them, right? It's like,
That's what I
go
mean.
have an,
That's what I
right? It's
mean. I
like,
mean,
you're
there might
fired. We
actually
don't
be,
need you doing
well,
this
there might
job
actually be
anymore.
some, well, there might actually be some criminal
Oh,
prosecutions over certain things like lying about, like incarcerating people unjustly for 3 years, right? With no charge and no trial. That's illegal. That's basic constitutional law, right? So stuff like that. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, there. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that nothing even questionably illegal took place over the past 4 years. Um, our government is still bloated. And
This
one of
is
the reasons a lot of the stuff was
dreaming
able to
of
happen is because it was bloated.
JFK being released on RFK being released on the FDA.
And the CDC, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. It's like,
But yeah, definitely the FDA, yeah.
well, people. So people are feeling skeptical about. I love the. Is this Elon and Ron Paul going? What
Oh,
would you
I
say
love
you do
that.
here?
Now, what you got to get it right with, like, from Office Space. So, what is it you say you do here?
Very
I
good.
love that movie. Yes, explain yourself, defend your job, defend your position.
Right.
Yeah, it's something the private sector people have to go through. That was real. It was what was so brilliantly funny about that
Mm,
scene. People do have to actually defend their positions some occasionally when downsizing happens, which happens often
right.
in the real world, outside of government.
Well, and going back to the RF, it's like, so, this is the RFK showing up at the FDA headquarters. Yeah, it would be more fun if he showed up at the CDC headquarters.
Yeah, it would.
And that is that, I mean, of, the sort of gently black pilling problems. It's like, are we gonna, so we're talking about January 6th now. Good, right? And that
Hmm. Yep.
that these people were politically hounded for having a difference of opinion on how best to do stuff, right?
Yeah.
Turned into, I mean, the favorite. I mean, I am. It does feel like go back to Luke Skywalker for a minute. It's like I'm your president. No, that enough people that we got the popular vote this time. The House, the Senate, or the definitely the Senate. The House is apparently still being counted. I'm
Yes.
losing track on that. The popular vote for president, the electoral college, all of it. And so now we cannot be told you're the strange one out, and nobody agrees with you. It's like, sorry,
No,
no.
now you're just yeah, now you're just being told by rich, spoiled, bratty people that you're evil,
Right,
right?
right. Who themselves,
I
if they're
care what you
actors, have
think.
never had to make these, unless they're in like production and stuff like that, which some of them are, but whatever. They are literally given the lines to say, which we, was it critical drinker, right? Saying like, we admire you for being good at that. It's actually a hard job to be a good
Hmm.
actor, to make your face do the right things on camera, to entertain, to have all of that good skill. Doesn't mean you know how to run the world.
Right. But I mean, even beyond the opinions, some of them are just downright nasty about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, we know what you do for a living. We know you use very convincing acting to make people think they're, witnessing an actual conversation, or they're in a different world, and it's really fun, and it's make believe, and it's imaginative. But now we know you're using that very, very good skill to try to make us believe we're the spawn of Satan.
Mm-hmm.
Got a problem with that because we know what you do. That's a
Yes.
big problem.
Yes. I mean, it will be interesting if acting goes back into the box as, an entertaining, the entertainment, but not, there was a similar kind of flip in the 18th century, um, where, you go from, I, I guess so it's always the aristocratic men who are falling in love with the women on stage and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
There are periods when the actors and as celebrities get certain kinds of status, and then it evaporates on them.
Yeah. For obvious reasons,
And yeah,
right?
and they go
Um,
back to being, it's entertainment, but that's nice. But now, no, you're not making policy decisions.
yeah.
And again, we can remind everyone, this was, of course, Edward Bernays who did this. It's like, again,
Mm,
why should we be listening to what the actors say about the politicians? Is because Edward Bernays brought the actors to the White House to make Calvin Coolidge seem
hmm.
cool.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that century is done now, right? Of you showing because you're famous, we're gonna get giddy over the fact that you know stood next to this other person.
I don't see them stopping doing that, though. I don't see them stopping that. Yeah,
Well,
it's effective.
fame is interesting. It's like Joe Rogan, you know, like Trump is on Joe Rogan because Joe Rogan has a big audience now. And so there's a bit of
Hmm.
frisson of, you know, it's like fame always does this,
Yeah.
right? Frisson of people paying
Hmm.
attention to you. And if
Yes.
enough people pay attention to you, then you must be important. Well, Beyonce is not important. Neither is Taylor Swift.
Yes. Neither is Taylor
They,
Swift.
you know,
Neither is Cardi B.
they are assets to a particular industry.
Yeah. Yes. That's it. And people know it. And the people who showed up to hear Beyonce sing got very disappointed and walked out when Kamala started talking.
Well, Kamala left and didn't even speak to the young women who showed up to hear her at Howard. I
Oh,
think
you mean, oh, right, at Howard
that
University?
should
Yeah.
end her career completely. It's like when those young, it's like there were some good, you know, good shots of some of the younger women that showed up. It's like they showed up and they had hope in you, and you didn't even show up to give the speech.
She did the exact same thing Hillary Clinton
How
did. It
dare
was
you?
disrespect.
That is
It's
so
disrespectful as hell.
disrespectful. Those were
It
your
was.
fans, and you didn't even deign to show your face in front of them that night. How dare you?
It was it was disrespectful to her supporters, and it was also embarrassing to all women.
Yeah.
You have spent a career telling women they're strong and they're independent and they're tough and they can do it. And when the and when the shit hits the fan, you hit the bottle and don't show up to concede. It's pathetic.
Well, I take it as like, so here we go. We got to keep going through these. We got oh, get the panic guy. Okay, we'll get down to there. I say it's like, okay, so ladies, you want to be in competitive situations against the men. I call that fencing. And I mean,
Yeah.
one of the things that you have to, it's like we have a law, a rule, like, you know, it's a rule, it's a true rule. When you finish your bout, whatever has happened in that bout, you take your mask off and you shake hands. Now, some of this, which I find I'm very, you know, stubborn and Gen X about this, right? It's like because during the people that competed during the COVID stuff stopped shaking hands and started like tapping blades against each other, which I find horrific, right? It's like hand out, no, not
Yeah.
this, that's my weapon hand. Hand out, we're gonna shake hands because you do not get to bout unless there's another person to bout, right? You
Yeah.
must respect your opponent. That's don't and I was actually thinking about this. It's like it's actually a good thing. I've come to all sorts of nice realizations, I hope. It is a good thing that we have to have elections and Trump has to prove himself again.
Hmm.
That's great,
Yes.
right? That's absolutely fine.
Yep.
We you know, it's like and it's actually good. Oh, so we have Republicans take the majority of the House of Representatives. Republicans take the majority of the Senate. Trump wins the popular vote. Trump wins the Electoral College. Deep state in full blown panic mode, right? It's
Yes.
it's
Yes. And I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying that
it's
thought.
actually
Yeah.
really, really good that we have opposition parties. Duh, right? It's like
A contest at
you
all.
need to have the
Yeah.
contest. You need to have if you guys have, you know, one set of ideas and we have another set of ideas, and guess what? People get things wrong all the time.
Hmm.
This is what's gone, you know, so this nonsensical thing. Oh, it's like you can't admit that you made a mistake. It's like you better be able to admit you made a mistake because maybe that policy this is what's in Casey Mulligan's book, right? One of the things he's talking about is
Hmm.
the opioid crisis, which
Yeah.
nobody had been doing anything about. And get I have a new theory about why the sort of like the government's going to take your Medicaid away is such a threat. It's in ooh, I don't remember what the thing is. D comes into it. Something D, right?
Medicare Part D.
Part D. You know what was
Okay.
going on in Medicare Part D?
Was it vaccines?
No. This is still opioid crisis, right? Nothing.
Oh, okay. Oh boy.
So there it Mulligan talks about this. It's like because they were trying to understand the economic incentives for the ways particular things played out, and one of them was basically the government started subsidizing the payment for the opioids. So it was very, very cheap,
Okay.
right?
Hey, we're subsidizing the crisis. Good
We
Lord.
subsidized the crisis that started, right? So then you have all these seniors who were able to get their opioids for very low cost. Guess what they did with them?
Sell them.
Yep.
Yeah, to make money. Good God.
Yep. So the threat to the D thing is the seniors who were subsidizing their retirement by selling the drugs to the younger people.
They're killing the younger generations.
Yeah.
That's vampiric.
Yeah.
That's horrific.
But the thing is, and this it's like, oh, it sounded like it's such a good. Mulligan also talks about the problems, with like the Obamacare individual mandate and stuff like that, right? All of these things that sound like great ideas. Let's give everybody an income. Are there going to be downsides? Oh no, we're not allowed to talk about that because then you're an evil person because it's what Mulligan calls it.
Yeah.
It's the Samaritan dilemma, right? And his thing that he's understood is if you subsidize something, you get more of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, sure.
and so if you and this I really respect what he's describing Trump was able to do. Trump gets these things because he actually does read the reports. Guess what? He understands. You try something. If it doesn't work, you try something else. And the stuff that backfires on you, you've got to have an opposition to be able to keep you testing things, right? That's otherwise we end up with the deep state and the pyramid bureaucracy, and nobody ever tests the effects of anything.
Right. I can't make a mistake. I can't admit to making a mistake. It makes me look weak, and then people won't do what I want. And I've got some good plans, so people should do what I want.
People should do what I want. Oh, yeah.
It's not a good leader.
There was some. All the memes are flying around and you never know what's real. And it's like, but the voters don't know really what to do. The voters are stupid. So we need to tell them what to do because we're the experts. And you're like,
yeah, that's Washington, D.C. right there in a nutshell.
Understanding the effects of the things that you thought were great ideas because they sounded good. And they sounded compassionate and they sounded nice. And it's like, yeah. And the sort of human beings are kind of tricky people, kind of tricky. You set one thing up and we're going to do another, and it doesn't take.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
History is a really complicated subject, guys, right? And so are all the other social sciences, which ironically got captured by the desire to sound like we always know what we're talking about. Some humility is worth it here.
It goes a long way. You can accomplish a lot if you're humble enough to listen to another opinion and maybe alter yours even in response if it sounds like something that you hadn't thought of before.
Well, and
or it's new information.
Right, it's new information, or it's I was weaving around. I'm going to just keep using that. The weaving around, like in fencing. I forget what I was talking about. The fencing thing.
I'm sorry.
Women behaving. Kamala
well,
should have stayed and talked to her.
You're talking about not shaking hands in fencing,
right?
And how horrible not giving a concession speech to your supporters on the night of is,
right?
And it's weak.
Because
it's weak and it's pathetic.
You need to stand up and shake. Oh, that's what I was talking about. It's like the unwillingness to acknowledge that there was a contest and you lost. And your opponent is, it's like your opponent is worthy. Trump understands it because after the debate they had, they were at a memorial service the next day, right? And he was like, he goes up to her and said, "You did a good job."
Yeah, I saw that.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, and then I started realizing, of course, because I've been as befogged by a lot of the media too, because I didn't watch. I mean, it's funny, like 2016 I watched Milo. I didn't really watch the Trump rallies. I was interested in why people were supporting Trump, but I wasn't as focused on him. That I've lost it again. What was I thinking? That the stuff that he says in the debates are part of the debate, right? So the only Rosie O'Donnell or stuff like that, that came out in the talking to Joe Rogan
will always
too.
Be funny.
It's like they're they were it's like if you're watching a fencing bout and someone makes a good action, yeah, good one, right? That
Yeah,
was a silly
right.
question. You responded well to it. Great. It doesn't mean he hates all
Well,
women.
I'll tell you, I was happy to see Megyn Kelly coming around and wanting to actually, talk to him
Mm-hmm.
and support him because I remember that she's one asked the Rosie O'Donnell the question he answered
Yes.
only Rosie
Yes.
O'Donnell,
I don't,
right?
what was the
And she got
question?
offended.
What was even the question?
The question was that so you've been disrespectful towards women
Oh,
and spoken bad, said these bad things, right? And he made the joke only
only
Rosie
Rosie
O'Donnell, and of course the entire
O'Donnell.
world exploded laughing, including my husband and I were laughing. I couldn't believe he said that. It was like hilarious. So that wasn't, and she tried to get him to stick to it and answer it, and he did. He tried to answer a little bit, but then they moved on. That wasn't the problem. Megyn Kelly got thrown out into the wilderness because she wouldn't let it go,
Mm,
right? She wouldn't let. I watched her months later, like maybe even 3 or 4 months later. She was still talking about the same moment. I'm like, why is she doing this? She's better than this. And it took 4 years, but she's actually come around and she's doing what she did best again,
right.
right? Because she's at least admitted on some level that was a mistake, and she's corrected her course. That was a good thing to do. That's not a weak and pathetic thing to do. That's a good thing to
Right.
do. And women, like you say, women who want to play what has been a man's game up until very recently in human
Right.
history in politics,
Right.
you need to learn how to do it like a man,
Well, or
right?
I mean,
Which means you need to have to do it without being overly emotional. You need to keep that in check.
well, this is where the fencing actually is quite, you know, topical or applicable. That I mean, women get emotional about, men get emotional about it too, right? But it's
I
different.
would not trust a man who cried on stage when he was running, trying to get
No,
my vote.
no,
I'm
no, no.
sorry,
You don't know. That's
gone.
you know, we also have rules of like, you can't throw your mask. You know, you can't do this, you can't do that because these things
Yeah,
happen, right? And so it's not that men never get emotional. The women get emotional in different ways than the men do. And, you know, but you have to learn how to, if you want to be a top level, you have to deal with all of that. And
yeah,
that's what I wrote about in my blog for the first several years. It's like dealing with those emotions is a big part of the training. So, you know, and men
yeah.
have to learn that too, right? It's like
They do. I've seen it. Yeah,
that's why,
they do too.
Rogan, whatever he is, he and Trump go on for a very long time in that interview about the fights, right? And they're both talking about how much they
Hmm.
like watching the fights and how these fighters work. And it's like, yeah, that you're learning how to be in the combat. That's a
Yeah.
part of it. And the guys have to learn too. So all of these men that are crying on camera right now too, guys, you've got to learn to be in the
Okay.
combat as well with other men.
Yeah, I'm going to get hate comments about this, but I'm not somebody who thinks men should never cry. We're talking about people in politics. We're talking about people who are trying to interview for one of the most important jobs in the
Yes.
world. No, you don't want them
You don't
crying.
want them
Okay.
crying.
There's a reason Margaret Thatcher was called the Iron Lady. They didn't want to call her a man. She wasn't a man. She was a wife and a mother,
You're right.
a
Yeah.
baroness, I think. She was very strong. She didn't let her emotions take over her ever because she had to compete with men. She knew it, and she was very good at it. She had a very good temperament for that. Now, whatever you think of her policies doesn't matter because I'm talking about her temperament, right?
Right.
That's the temperament. If women are running for office, that's the temperament they want. They should cultivate that because she understood that and she did it very well.
Well, there's different levels of it though, because like she competed in the midst, like willing to be in the bouts, right? I think there is a version of the hard woman
Yes,
who like doesn't want the bouts at
right.
all, right? She just wants to be in control, and why don't how dare you, and
Yeah,
and such. And this is, I
yeah,
mean, I recognize this. It's, again, when Trump is talking, he's going to talk to Kim Jong Un, he's going to talk to Xi, he's going to talk to Putin, he's going to talk to all of these guys, and they instantly recognize it's like the samurai in the seventh. There's a famous scene in the Seventh Samurai where this one hot-headed guy is challenging the swordsman to, like, you have to,
oh
they're
right, I remember
using
that
wood
scene.
swords
Yeah,
first, and he's like, I would have, if I won, and the other guy's saying, no, you didn't, and he's like, I did,
yeah,
and so then they, so I'm gonna fight you with, and he pulls the blade, and the other guy's like, choo, right?
Yeah. And he tries to stop him. He's like, you're going to
You're
die.
going to die
Yeah. Don't do this.
if you don't recognize that you just lost, right? Oh no, I have to.
Right.
So men have to learn how to control it too. That's not.
Yeah,
It's
they
not
do.
that men are and women only women are emotional, but that if Kamala wanted to be the person that she was interviewing for the job for, she just proves she can't do it ever.
Exactly. And Hillary Clinton proved she can't do it either. Right. Because if you wanted to say, oh, I can't go on stage because I'll look weak in my concession, it's like it's your concession speech, right? Okay, pull yourself together and get out there.
Salute your
You don't wait an
opponent.
entire day.
Recognize that,
Exactly.
you entered into this competition, you knew the risk, and they did better than you did. And yeah, it hurts.
Yeah. The only two women to get that far, and that's what they do with it.
It's
They would have done more for women's for men's and other women's opinions of women in politics if they had come out and within a couple of hours or maybe within an hour and conceded and addressed their supporters.
well, definitely address their supporters, right? Those women were there for them.
Yep, and men. There was a ton of men there at
Yeah.
Howard.
Well, the cameras I saw, they were just taking pictures of the women. But anyway.
Oh, well, it's historic, right?
Yeah,
That's why.
yeah.
But there were a lot of men and women out there
Okay.
at the university. Yeah,
She should
very
she
young.
should have come talk to them. And now all they know is
Yeah,
she
should
didn't
have.
show up.
Mhm.
They made
That's
an
what they're
effort
going
to
to remember.
come, and she didn't show up.
And now this is two female candidates in a row, and that's what I'm going to remember. This is what they both did. So unless you're like Margaret Thatcher, don't bother.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well,
You need the right temperament to do this.
Yeah. I'm actually perfectly happy if we never have a woman president. I don't think we should, right? I think that we have different skills, and they should be applied in the right places. And being the leader, it has, I'm not sure how far up an institution it makes sense for women to go. That's I was thinking about that. It's like abbesses, right? It's like if you're in a situation where you're the abbess and you have that kind of responsibility. I was also okay, this is like a total like going off. We need to talk about Gen X. But one thing is like the women were saying we'd have a society away from men completely, and I'm like, I know what that's called. It's a convent.
Everybody knows this. It's so silly. It is. Now I'm completely ambivalent of whether or not we ever get a woman president. I just want a decent president, and so far, because of the aforementioned temperament, right? Those are going to almost exclusively be men. Thatcher was a unicorn.
Yeah. And
it's not really that common. It isn't.
Yeah, we can do the streams on the Queens some other time. Anyway, so you stayed up all night watching to make sure.
I sure did. I had to force myself to go to bed.
I was like, it was something like 11, and I was like, okay, it looks okay, but I do not want. It's like all of X making sure the map doesn't flip to blue when our eyes close.
Yeah. That was me. That was me all the next day too. I mean, I did get a little bit of sleep. I had to get up 4 hours later, but yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy.
Oh. Well, I mean, if this is the good situation that people are really taking the election integrity seriously, and we'll have proper monitoring of everything, because we're in this new in the new tech, right? It's like they probably, oh, this is great. We'll put these computer machines in, and we'll do this and we'll do that and stuff like that. It's like, actually, human beings cheat, right? That's
Yep.
People are gonna try. It's never gonna be. Maybe this is like, okay, so we were in a high trust society, now we're in a low trust society. But I think you develop trust because you actually pay attention.
Yeah. No, there's always been a lot of cheating in elections going back from the beginning of the country, right?
Yep.
Now that the cheating's on a massive scale, and the reason we know about it is because Elon Musk bought Twitter.
Right.
$45 billion. That's why
Well,
he helped save this election.
oh, he definitely did. But I have been being entertained by people saying, oh, like you got the tech guy who just controlled it. I'm like, you had Facebook,
They had
right? They
Facebook,
had,
they
they,
had
they had,
YouTube, Google, Twitter, they had everything. They owned it. And they said, well, the government's not allowed to do censorship. Well, guess who was telling them to do this?
yes, exactly. Yeah. So,
So yeah.
right. All of X was watching, but because we know, and this is the Trump has better coverage than Verizon. Can you hear us now? I like the county by county
Yeah.
breakdown better than the state by state
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
see that it is actually the cities. It's always the cities.
There are no blue states. There are only blue
There's blue
cities. Like
cities.
even Washington State, half of it's red. This is the half that wants to break off and join Greater Idaho.
Right.
Along with the western half of Oregon. Same thing. You have the cities dictating, and that's a problem going back centuries in Europe too. You know, it always is. You have a super concentration of people in a city, and
Right.
so they're a voting block
Right. Well, and so
every
the
time.
thing is I live in Chicago, right? And I'm actually perfectly happy with my neighbors. They're not bad people. So guys,
Hmm?
the red people need to like make peace with the blue people. Stars on theirs, right? I got all the stars. Um the cities do this, right? As you said at the beginning of our discussion, that cities collect people from everywhere, right? That's their job. They
Hmm.
drain the countryside of people. So the countryside's
Yeah,
job is to make people, and cities is to use them up. No, wait. um, that
feels like that. Yeah,
well, the thing
man.
is, it's kind of, but the thing is, they work together, right? The country will not exist without cities.
Yeah.
There is a fantasy that like you can just have the countryside and no cities. No, it's like they both need each other.
Hmm.
We still have to do
Yeah.
that city stream for medieval understanding of this. Like you can see it more clearly in the Middle Ages when the cities are definitely they create the countryside because then they protect the countryside. You want our borders
Right.
protected. You need both.
Right. And this
Yeah.
right. And the cities were walled, and they protected the people who came in from the country
Right.
for protection during war,
Right. So you
for
don't
fortifications.
you don't get to fantasize about how, oh, if we all just go off and live on the farms, they'll leave us alone. No, they won't.
Historically, that's a very dangerous position to be in if you're out by yourself alone
Right.
on a family farm.
It's no, the cities help protect the countryside and the countryside helps feed the cities. It's a
Hmm.
bond. Right.
Yes.
So rather than calling everybody names all the time, that's never going to stop either, right? It's like
Yeah.
the dissing on the countryside is a, time honored civilizational tradition.
It's the city mouse and country mouse, right?
Yep.
Country cousin and the city cousin.
Hmm. Hmm. I mean, back when we had, network television that showed you there that what all the shows that they did about the countryside, and then there was the concerted effort in the '60s to get rid of all that programming.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, why?
Um, Mary Tyler Moore.
Okay, they were promoting the single gal. All right. And that girl, I loved that show. I watched it in
Oh, we've
reruns.
been programmed. So we've been programmed bad. So we say that.
Yep.
Okay. So Trump.
Rhoda.
Yeah. Oh, Rhoda. Right. It's like
Yep. Rhoda, Mary Tyler Moore. Yeah.
that was
Yep.
conscious, like professional women programming
Maud.
stuff. And instead of having the Waltons and Petticoat Junction, and I mean Dukes of
Yeah.
Hazzard, there's that skit on Dukes of Hazzard going out right now with Vance
Oh
and
yeah.
Trump and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
That
It's
was
like
it's awesome.
Dukes of Hazzard is
Never did
like
that.
the edgy version of trying to say, look, there's story in the countryside that's worth watching.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Justified. It's like just
Oh yeah, that's a good one too.
amazing how Eastern Kentucky looks like Southern California. But anyway,
Shocking.
shocking. The
Yeah,
trees are
yeah,
all
I remember
wrong.
that. Yeah. Austin Powers came up with that joke first. So
Oh, but
England looks nothing like Southern California.
this we saw this recently. The guy who played one of the baddies in Justified, right?
Uh-huh.
The
Yeah.
bad he was the drug dealer, right? Wasn't it the
Oh no, yeah, Neil. oh gosh, what's his last name now? I forget.
So devout and Catholic, he won't do kissing scenes.
Yeah, yeah. Neil McDonough. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. If you listen, I'm sorry, I forgot your last name. Yeah, he won't. And
He was evil.
that was
He was an
that was the
evil.
most
Oh my
brilliant
gosh,
acting job I've ever seen
he
too.
was he's terrifying in that role.
He is terrifying. I don't think I've ever had an actor be able to elicit both revulsion and pity at the same time as
Oh
he
my
did with that
gosh, that
part.
was such a
It was
hard.
astounding. It was an astounding accomplishment, really. He's amazing, amazing actor.
And then we go back to our theme of it. The actors are acting.
And they're very good at it. Some of them.
If we respect their skill at acting, that's one thing, right? But that, it's like that we can hold different political positions from them, even though that that so hold the line X. What is the appellation? What was that? You included that as there's this
Right. That
oh, it was
right. It
that
was
whole region completely red.
entire region is completely
Yeah.
red. Appalachia. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It was hold the line. Right?
Don't
The red line. Yeah.
this I for me this was the observation that I made 8 years ago all along, that the region that was voting for Trump believes in America. And
Yes.
what's interesting about the region that believes in Trump and that believes in America is the region that were only American. They're not like this hyphenated American, that hyphenated American stuff, because they were the Scots-Irish borderers who had nothing else, right?
Yep. That's
Woodard
right.
talks about that in American Nations, how when there's these surveys, right, and they said, the only region that says, what are you, American, right? And it's like, well, we know what we're Americans, like this is our land, and that was actually nicely done and justified. One of the baddies, the mama, the sort of old matriarch, right? This is our land, and it's been our land for centuries. And it's like, yeah, and those were the people that came from the borders between Scotland and Ireland. Never mind Braveheart, right? It's like the Scots Irish, who were the original economic migrants, because the Scots and the English nobility were clearing them off their land. Get the stuff about like what's happening if it's weather shenanigans for the hurricanes and everything to get them off their land. Been there, done that. That was called the 17th century.
Yeah. Yeah, they're well familiar with it. That their land is very important to them. That is their culture, is their land.
Right. And they don't trust the government because which
who would blame
king
them?
are you going to trust when each of them, it doesn't matter which, like, are they coming from the north or the south this time? And that is all in David Hackett Fisher's Albion Seed, about it's like that Appalachian region. So it's interesting because Trump, his mother came from Scotland, right? She's Scots Presbyterian.
Yes, Scottish
So
immigrant.
his feeling for that culture is appropriate. And what I also like about his do we get to the McDonald's and stuff? We got the squirrel. We made okay. We're at 9:30. We're at 9:30 now, just so you know, and lost most of our audience because we weren't streaming on the easy platform this time. Oh, but they're still listening on Telegram. Hi guys. Okay.
Good.
Yes, we got more. We got the VA Boston is giving us some more memes and stuff on Telegram. You guys have the two YouTubers. You've got to join my Telegram chat because that's where all the fun happens afterwards. Right?
True, it's the after
party. The
after party.
The Telegram
great.
after party is essential, and it goes on for all hours at all times, and including in the middle of the night.
And on election night,
it was the place to be for sure.
3:30 in the morning. Exaggerate slightly.
That Trump knows how to live the laird's life, right? It's like in Mar-a-Lago when he's in all the celebrations and stuff. He's surrounded by all of his wealth and gold and stuff like that. But this is the guy who like served French fries for 15 minutes. and and
That was
and
awesome.
got in the garbage truck. It's like gave dignity to the people that do the work of the land.
And he was happy to be there doing it, and that showed. I don't think you can really fake that very well.
No,
You can't fake it by saying our campaign is now joy. Okay, everybody keep repeating that word.
no.
He just got in there, made his French fries. Said, "How do you do this?" It's just kind of endearing. Seeing him work the French fry
Yes.
station at a McDonald's, which a lot of us did when we were in high school or college. It was really sweet.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I mean the the sort of good boss who knows what the different jobs are, right? It'd be
Yes.
very nice if you
Right.
could have some understanding of, it's like we're not just going to make fun of you for being masculine and doing difficult jobs or being, diligent and showing the food service jobs. I mean, that is our servant class, obviously, right? Like
Yes.
we share our servants across our culture now, so that you've got your waiters and your well, waiters, right? It's like all of if you like watching Downton Abbey, you realize you pay those people to work in all of our service industries now.
Right. Yeah.
And he's the boss lord who's going to recognize their jobs.
Yeah, I don't know whose idea it was to have him drive up in a garbage truck, but it was brilliant. That was absolutely
Well,
brilliant.
yes, whoever's advising him on these things, guys, keep going. We're happy. I mean,
Keep
so we
doing it.
had the Amish
Yeah.
coming out in the background, which apparently was one man's doing. Scott Pressler, who looks like an
Scott
elf because
Pressler.
he wears his hair long and straight, right?
He does a bit. He looks like an 80s like country singer to me.
Someone said he looks like an Olive Garden waiter in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I'm like, oh yes, that makes sense too.
Oh, really a perfect description. Oh gosh.
He's got the belt
That's very
buckle and
good.
everything.
Yeah.
That he went and talked to all the
Yeah.
Amish and said, you
He
need to
did.
vote
He's
because
like,
they're going to come for your land. Is that what he said to them? How did he get them out?
they were coming. They were coming for their products. It was actually an Amish family in
Mm.
Virginia, and it was the government took all of their stuff, so they couldn't feed their own family, they couldn't feed their own animals, they couldn't feed the people who were with the stuff they had collected. They couldn't feed the people who had, I guess, made orders because they sold their products because it was raw milk. It's like, sorry, you don't have any permits for
Yeah.
that.
Oh, so it's the
You
regulation
know,
stuff. Okay, so
it was the regulation
this
stuff.
is in
Yeah.
Milligan's book too that he's talking about. One of the things that everybody thinks one fictions about the regulations. The top one is that most of them are environmental. They're not. Those we think
Hmm.
that regulation is about saving the environment because they're the ones that end up in court a lot.
Yeah.
um,
And it's good rhetoric to keep power
right.
in the hands of a few people over everybody
For the
else.
most part, there's no clue about the cost benefits on having the regulations in place, except for the Reduction of Paperwork Act from 1980, which means every time you fill in a government form, it has how long it takes to fill it out. Right. I always wondered about that. It's
Yeah,
like, this is a 20-minute fill out. And I'm like, what? So that's the only
that's
thing
yeah.
that they track.
One thing it did.
Is
Good
how long it
grief.
takes to fill in paperwork. The rest of the regulations, Mulligan was saying this, like they have no clue what effects of most of this
Hmm.
stuff is. So
Well, those Amish farmers knew the
yeah,
effect. That's why Scott Pressler was very successful with them, and they came out. How many tens of thousands more
180,000
voted?
apparently.
Yeah, that they
They
flipped
flipped
it.
it.
They
Yeah.
flipped it. Scott Pressler helps them flip it. They helped save their farms. We hope. We got to see what happens, but got a good sporting chance
Well,
now.
this is a good lesson from out of all of it, right? It's like we're saying, so what's going to change now? And one, stop thinking of the federal government as, daddy. I mean, we got
Right.
President Trump, right? Here are
Well,
his
he's a
hair
person, not a
predictions. We'll
faceless
give his hair
organization.
predictions, right? It's like, so stop thinking of the federal
That's
government
brilliant.
as your husband, please, right?
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
husband is your husband, and the federal government is meant to deal with things like the king's rules, right? Making sure that there is law when laws are broken and you've got a justice system, making sure that we have military protection because guess what, people tend to steal from each other, so it helps to have
Right.
cops and military and stuff like that, and
Hmm.
that's it.
That's it. They are supposed to be doing very little. Yeah, very little. And people have gotten since the First World War, not the second, people have gotten very used to the government being ever present in their lives. Our great-great-grandparents would have been completely unfamiliar with this. It would have been foreign to them, altogether foreign.
Well, this is things go bad. Here we have a sourpuss face, right? Why is she wearing a poppy? That makes her look oh, she is English.
Because they are. This is the foreign press. This is the foreign press.
Okay, foreign press, stay out of it. It's none of your business.
It is none of your business.
A lot of the level of problem. This has been, the story of the 20th century. Talk about fascism, right? The story of the 20th century is greater and greater centralization of government. The story of Lord of the Rings is the Shire is its own place. The king should stay out, and the hobbits have to take care of it, right? And that's the bit that they took out of the end of the movie, which was, when the hobbits go back, what they realize, are there hobbits here? There were some hobbits.
There are some hobbits in there. Yeah, they're coming up.
I can't find the hobbits. We're about to get to Gen
I think
X.
it's just Gandalf.
We're about to get to Gen X.
Yeah.
Maybe we have to do Gen X in the future. No, we want to do Gen X now.
Now we got to do it now.
Okay. Well, then we'll just keep going. If Joe Rogan and Trump can do 3 hours, we can keep going. We can keep going.
I'm up for it.
Our small but loyal audience. My phone keeps shutting down. Maybe I should turn the screensaver off. And I can't see the Telegram chat unless I look. Okay, they're listening. They're still listening.
Okay.
You don't fix the water supply from Washington all the way across the continent. You don't fix the raw milk. It's like we need the lesson that the Amish give us, and we'll go back to the Amish, right? Our plans are measured in centuries. Is you do have to belong to the land, and you have to take care of your own community, and
they do very well.
And you have to start. This is why I'm not in favor of everyone saying run away from the cities, right? You want good cities, stay and take care of your neighborhood, right? Cities belong in neighborhoods. Chicago actually
improve your neighborhood.
Be in your neighborhood, live in your neighborhood, talk to your neighbors. If people would be less surprised at how everybody voted if the political class, which this woman represented by the poppy likes being, the political class likes being rootless.
Yes, they want to be global citizens, because then they can get in everybody's business,
right?
Because that's what it's about. It's not about taking vacations where you want with ease. It's about controlling people on the other side of the world because you don't like the idea of them doing something you disapprove of, which is why the foreign press is making that sourpuss face right there. They're displeased that Trump has been reelected. I don't care.
Trump, I have a video on my Telegram channel right now that Trump is going through this. I think it's from the Tucker Carlson behind the scenes move thing about the campaign, and he's going through a book of the royal family and talking about how much he likes them all.
Right, I saw that. Yeah.
If you listen to Trump talking, he's like, "This is beautiful, and it was very beautiful, and these are very nice, and got along very well." And it's like,
I think he liked the Queen. I think he
face
was a
that this woman
fan.
from Britain is making. It's like he likes your country better than you do.
Exactly. She's probably a Republican, right? She's probably an anti-monarchist. There are a lot of them in from what I've seen. There's a lot of them in media there, which is ironic, but yeah.
Well, but the problem of liking your own country is absolutely huge.
Yeah, it is. I'm sure you've met plenty of Americans who don't like their own country, and I'm not one of them. I've met foreigners before. If they've told me they hated their country, I would view them with suspicion.
Well, Americans are made by people who hated their own country because they came here.
I'm not sure. I mean, well, it depends on the circumstances.
The Scots Irish did. We left. Are you kidding me?
Well, the Irish didn't. They were put on ships and
Oh,
sent,
fair enough.
and so were
Fair,
a lot of
fair. Scots, we,
Africans,
Fulton, the
you
Fultons
know.
came on our own from Ulster.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, but for the most part, outside of the Africans and the Irish, most people came here voluntarily. But but I would still view it with suspicion because I think it's a virtue to love your home.
Yes.
I wouldn't necessarily say there's something wrong with you, but I would be suspicious. I would ask, why? Why do you hate your? It sounds like a beautiful place. Why do you hate it?
Well, so this is, I mean,
So
actually, this is a nice riff. It's like, I long thought after I read Albion Seed 9 years ago and got like, I scared one of my friends who's in history when I was, going on about how cool it was. And I now understand everything. She's like, you sound, like you've been, evangelical. And I'm like, I am, because to understand how the local, the effects of where people came from in England and the UK, and where they settled in the United
yeah,
States that became the colonies that became the United States, and how that affected how they think about what they are in the United States. That's huge.
it is huge. That's a wonderful book, though. I really recommend it. That was the first book that you recommended
Yeah.
to me that I read, and I'm so glad I did. It's huge, but it's a really wonderful book. If you love English colonial American history,
Mm-hmm.
read this book. If you love
Albion
etymology,
Seed.
read this
Yeah.
book.
And
Yes,
all of
Albion
it.
Seed.
And instead of,
Yeah,
and Fisher he does this brilliant job of showing, it's like, okay, look, the different regions all hated the British. That's why
yeah.
we ended up with the United States
Isn't
instead.
that funny? Isn't that funny?
The
Yeah,
one
Mel
thing we
Gibson
had
put
in
the
common, we all hated the British.
Mel Gibson put a scene in The Patriot, right, which was about the. I think it was based on Francis Marion, right,
Mm,
the swamp fox, right, of the Revolutionary War.
right.
And in one scene, he goes into they're looking for recruits to help them fight the British. So he goes into a bar and says, "God save the king," just to see
See
whether or
who
not they were in the
responds with
right
what.
place,
Yeah.
right? Right. They ever responded with hatred and abuse, like, "Yep, we found the right place,"
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I
So
remember that. That's good. I think we're in the right place now. So, and
yeah.
that, I mean, so they all hated the British, but they hated each other too, which is why we ended up with the different states.
One big dysfunctional family we are. So we love each other.
And oddly enough, those Yankees, which are the ones who, we go back to the maps, right? I'm not going to worry about the maps. We'll get to Gen X in a second. The Yankees are the ones that hated everybody else the most, right? They came here first. Uh,
Did they? I don't really know. I
well,
think
actually,
I
no.
think all the regions.
The Virginians are here earlier too. So the
Yeah,
Virginians are here first, and they just want their own like estates, right? They want to
yeah,
transplant their. They have to
exactly.
bring their own serfs because
Well, they created them, right? They created some very awful rules too.
yeah, the black
A
ones and
lot
the
of
white
you.
ones can't talk to each other. Wait, right? Yeah. So
Well, no, I mean that they had to be deferential to anybody who was a landowner, as if they were servants. But the whites and the blacks both had to do this to the people who owned the land, the landowners.
right,
That was from Albion Seed, and it was
right.
yeah, they were second sons trying to recreate the estates they think they should have had,
In
right,
Virginia, yes.
in Virginia,
Whereas in
right?
New England, they're all up there being East Anglian townspeople and trying to
Hmm.
conform to the community guidelines,
Yeah.
and just like these two cultures have hated each other for centuries. They even and the thing is,
Well, they
we
fought a
know
war, didn't they,
we
in
can be
England?
very very accurate actively accurate about this, because in the 17th century that was the Civil War, and they came from
Right.
different factions of that Civil War and then settled hundreds of miles apart in the colonies, and then the Quakers come in the middle, and everybody hates them because they're pacifists, and
Because
then
they're weird.
and then the Scots Irish show up, whom everybody
Yeah,
hates.
the Scots Irish are the ones who, they're shooting guns off in the air and having wild weddings, and they're basically the Taliban, right?
This is my people, or at least the Presbyterians are, right? The Fulton
Yeah,
Presbyterians, and then we intermarry with the Germans, who all show up in the 19th century for all other complicated reasons. Um, the problem for human history throughout is, one, the nations are all mixed up because that's what we do. We marry each other,
yeah,
and they the big competitions are between the people who don't belong to the land and the people who do. And the people who don't
Mhm.
belong to the land are called pirates.
Oh, yeah.
And live in port cities, right? Or come and go in port cities. So our dynamic of the blue versus the red it's so clear in the map now, right? It's the port
Yeah.
cities and the land.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So the mainstream media just needs to get over itself because
It never
they're
will.
they're
But they're
not
very self-important.
well. The thing is, I find it interesting that you know Fisher's book came out in 1989 or something, right? It's an old it's
Yes.
interesting to me that despite this being something that in fact has been out there in the literature for decades, we're
Mhm.
still trapped in this nonsense. I mean, the mainstream media is creating cartoon versions of like the America. It's like America. What's real America? And it's like you never even tried to find out.
Well, they're not. That's not their that's not their goal. Their goal is to divide people and then report on the division, right?
Well, it would
It's
be
yellow
fine.
journalism.
The thing is, it would be fine if they were upfront about it. But
But no, that breaks the whole act. And it
oh,
is an
fair.
act.
Yes, that's fair.
It's all
Yeah.
performative. The outrage is performative. The sourpuss face you just showed, totally performative. Although she probably found it easier to do that, from what I've heard about, certain upper classes,
Oh yes, they
overeducated
practice the
people.
sneer.
Yes. Yes. So looking down the nose, at you stupid
I've met
Americans.
one woman who is actually spent the entire dinner conversation that she was in this conversation with telling us how she was in Berks. And I'm like, we just met. Why is this a thing that you have to talk about?
Oh,
Yeah, and it was not a
yeah.
conversation that made any difference, right? So
Hmm. Yes. It's a calling card,
well, and
right?
yeah, I guess, and something that I mean, like you might end up hearing from me if you if you poke me hard enough, all the stuff about where I come from. But it's a bit unseemly to talk about it, frankly, right?
Yeah.
To go there. I want to get to Gen X, so we got some more here. We got Elon Musk with our amazing future. Maybe we'd have to do a whole stream on how much we trust or distrust Musk. But right now we have Peanut unburdened by government, Trump victory, balanced budget and great economy, humanity becoming multiplanetary, amazing future. I'm not sure I believe
The
in
dominoes.
space. I've just been reading a great poem by C.S. Lewis that we will share some other time. We need to get to
Okay.
who actually voted for Trump. Start with race, 4 categories. Gender, race, 4
Hmm.
categories. White men, 57% for Trump. White women, 51% for Trump. Ladies, we
Yep.
thank you. You voted with us.
51%.
It's
Yes.
51. Black men, 73% voted for Harris, but 23% voted for Trump, which is huge,
That
right?
is a huge change.
That's a
Yes.
huge change, getting the 73%, 23% of black men. Black
Hmm.
women, okay, you went with your homegirl, but she abandoned you. So
And then she abandoned you.
be
Right.
aware of these women that aren't part of the sisterhood. Latino men, 45% for Trump,
That's pretty high.
and particularly in
That's pretty
Texas,
high.
right?
Hmm.
Border counties went completely for Trump, thanks
That didn't
to
surprise me at all. And
yeah,
anybody who's ever met any, Mexicans from Texas, like Texicans, right? They're
yes, old
absolutely
families
for
from the
they're
land. They've
well,
been there
even
so long. My family, who
no,
is like settler panhandle, aristocracy, right? Which we talked about when my town burned down or got burned around, right? We're
oh right.
newcomers, newbies, embarrassingly fresh to the
But no,
people
I'm
that
not
live
even
down in the South.
no, I'm not even talking about that people have been there forever, like New Mexican
Well,
families. I'm
no,
talking
no,
about
these are in
people.
Texas.
No, I know. I'm talking
Okay.
about people in Texas who
Mm,
are first generation or second generation from Mexico.
fair, fair,
They
fair.
are very, very pro border,
Yeah.
right? They like border security. They didn't come here illegally. They came here legally, and they don't like illegal immigration. And all these comments about what are Mexicans doing, voting for their own deportation? It's like we're not here. We're not all here illegally, you dumbass.
Right.
I mean, it's
Yes.
absurd. What
Yes.
an absurd thing to assume. It's like it doesn't surprise me at all. I've met a lot of people and worked for the few in the past from there, and oh yeah, they're. I mean, the Border Patrol alone, half of them are, like first and second generation Mexican
Right.
Americans.
Right. They
You
would
know,
they actually, I mean, guess what, guys? Spain had a government too. Right? And there's
yeah.
I had a colleague who worked on the history of the empire, right? The Spanish Empire and its
Mm,
law. She's at Stanford now, I think.
nice.
And that legal tradition is as robust and concerned with creating stable communities as the English. So get a grip.
Hmm.
Just because they're
Yeah.
Hispanic doesn't mean they don't believe in law. Like
Right.
who
It's
would
just
think
it's
that? It's like
insulting.
it's insulting.
Well,
Yes.
that's divisive politics, right?
Right.
You have to pigeonhole people, and then you have to hammer, these labels onto them, and then keep perpetuating the label as if it were a fact.
Well, this I mean
Didn't
just
work.
as Kamala not showing up to give her speech, right? This is incredibly
Yeah,
disrespectful to the people
it
you're
is.
claiming to represent. The infantilization of the electorate is the thing that pisses
Yep.
me off the most.
Yeah.
Because again, over and over and again, it's claiming, well, you don't understand what the effect of this is. It's like, yes, we do.
Hmm.
Just like the seniors who realized that they could sell their opioids. It's
Yeah, we
like
live here too.
people
Yeah.
people make their decisions and okay, so Latino women 36%. Okay, so maybe having difficult conversations at home, but the white men and women are too, and all others 36% for Trump, 57%. But it means, again, it's like the larger portion of the pot of the electorate is white in these
Yeah.
categories, and the white women voted for Trump. But that's not the real story. This is the real story by age.
Yeah, that was a
Yes.
surprise. It
Oh,
was.
I am, as everyone knows, like it's the oldest Gen X you can be by like 6 weeks, because
Yeah.
1965 counts, right? I'm not a
Yeah.
boomer. Don't want to be a boomer.
Yeah.
Do not make me a boomer. Thanks to Wikipedia finally got my birth date right. I was like, they kept wanting to say I was born in
Yeah.
1970, and I like 1950, that I was 70, and
Oh,
it's like,
oh, good grief.
guys,
Quite a big
guys,
difference.
guys. Harris is a boomer because she was born in November of 1964. I
Oh,
am Gen
interesting.
X. Right? So there.
Well, the big news here is everybody knows we exist again. They kind of
Briefly,
forgot.
briefly. Well,
Briefly,
it's like,
we
will you
briefly
please
exist.
get out of our lives? Right?
Yeah.
The Megan Fox article that everybody needs to read, that was brilliant. Like saying, do you realize? What's funny is when people are talking about like the way we grew up, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so yes, the 2024 Trump +8, 45 to 64 years old, right?
Yeah,
It's glorious. Glorious,
it
glorious,
is.
glorious, glorious. Gen X, the only generation to be 30 at 15 is still 30 at 15.
I have a slight quibble. I was born 30, according to my dad, so slight quibble with it. But yes, that's we're
When
just
I
born
turned
old.
40, I was so happy, right? 40 was the age I was aiming at. And it's like and I can't believe I'm nearly 60 now, right? It's like, wait, no, I'm stuck at 40. Actually, my grandmother got to 39 and stopped there. So if I got to 40, I suppose
Oh,
she was in real money 69 when she died.
what's really fun? I remember Zsa Zsa Gabor's when she died. Her obituary said she's believed to be this age, right? She worded it because she wouldn't
She would
tell anybody how
never
old she
say,
was.
darling. Yes.
Yes.
Anyway, the Gen Xers. Let's talk about that. Here we are. We finally made it. We have nothing to say. Why would you ask?
We're not used to being asked.
Well, okay, so it is funny because you spend your whole life, the people that are a bit older, right?
Yeah.
And finding out they're boomers and that's why they're nuts. But they got to do the cool stuff in the 60s. So you spend a lot of time growing up in the 70s and then college in the early 80s, listening to the 60s music, Pink Floyd and, stuff
Yeah.
like that. And
Right.
the but also the other things that people are starting to talk about, it's like we were the last feral generation. I'm like, that meant you go outside and you play until the sun sets and then you come in. It's like, how is that
Right.
feral?
No, yeah, the
Right.
street lights come in. You had a home to go to, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so the street lights are on.
It is
I have a,
truly the
I was half and half.
yeah.
So I, so the first half of my youth, before turning 18, I had a mom that was at home, and then in the middle was latchkey kid, right? And
Right.
then when I was in high school, mom was at home again. She just kind of went up and down like this. Now it's like most moms work,
Yeah.
you know. But back then we had a glimpse still of what normality looked like. We still remembered it. We still had a memory of it, and I think a lot of kids unfortunately don't. And that's economic, and that's something Phyllis Schlafly predicted in the early 70s.
Right.
Said all you women want to go out to work, and soon you won't have a choice because that's economics. And
Oh,
she
and
was
she
right.
was right about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's sobering. So I had similar situation that my mom worked, and my mom was at home until I was 11, and then my father left. Yes, I've written
Mm.
about this online. You can look it up. And then my mother went back to work, but I am fourth generation women in college. My great grandmother went to college in Arkansas. Both of my
Mm.
grandmothers went to college. One in Missouri, one in actually where was my? I think they're both in Missouri. Um, and my mother was a physician, right? But when I was
Mm-hmm.
little, she wasn't working. I was born in St. Louis where I was because she was in medical school with my dad. And then when my dad left, she went back to practice, right? And then we became the latchkey kids. And what
Yeah.
was funny is I always thought it was great.
Oh, did ya? Oh, I didn't like it.
I got home, nobody's. I mean, I'm like an introvert. I don't know. And you got to watch Gilligan's Island and what was that?
I watched Star Trek a lot.
I didn't watch Star Trek. We didn't have. We
I
had
was a
Gilligan's
Trekkie.
Island and
Had that too. The Brady
Brady
Bunch.
Bunch. Yeah, I was watching the Brady
Mm.
Bunch recently. That's wild. And we had activities. But we were in the suburbs, and so you could go out and play. And indeed, it's like don't know where kids are out, right? We come back in. It was great, right? And all of the crazy stuff that people are admitting that we all got up to in those years, like the games you'd
Uh-huh.
play with the other kids, hanging,
Yeah. They were
they were
brutal.
brutal.
They were really brutal. Like physically
And
brutal.
and the bullying was real, and the playgrounds were
Oh yeah.
rough, and and
Mm-hmm.
the fencing and lessons taught you. And
Mm.
it's like, and it's never just like, wait, you guys didn't get that growing up? Really? That's why you don't know what to do when somebody like makes fun of you?
Yeah. Yeah. Sticks and stones. Yeah.
Right, like this one, whoops, the here we go. I can actually hear and smell this picture.
Oh, I can.
Dodgeball.
It was the perfect description. I'm like, I could smell the plastic and I could feel the sting. Whack. Absolutely. It did sting. It stung, but you lived.
Well, you lived, or this is like here the next Gen X one. Just a normal Gen X kid experiencing quality parenting with a 2,000-degree Fahrenheit sparkler and a lit cigarette above its head. And the guy, he looks just like all the guys, in our. Oh my
He
gosh,
did. Oh, absolutely
the
did. Yeah.
mustache and
Everybody,
the
I
and the
could,
stupid haircut and the.
now people need to hear this. Everybody smoked back
Oh
then,
yeah.
and you smoked everywhere.
Oh yeah, you had the
I went
McDonald's
to, I
here.
used,
Can we go to the playground now? Yes,
yeah,
but hang on a minute. Daddy's got to finish his Marlboro first.
that's That's not a joke. I remember those little tins, those little tin
Yeah, yeah,
ashtrays.
yeah.
And that was, and I used to go to the store to buy cigarettes for my parents and my aunts and uncles. They'd send me to the store to buy cartons of cigarettes. And no, there was no ID. Anybody could buy them. So
I don't
that's
remember
that's
that.
crazy.
My dad smoked a
And
pipe
I
at
still
home, so
remember what brand everybody smoked. I remember there were 4 different brands,
and you could buy them.
and I bought all of them. I don't smoke, but they did, and I bought all of them. They had a smoking section in my high school. You had to be a junior though.
My gosh, it's like I remember kids smoked in school. Yeah, you're right.
Yep. You smoked everywhere. You smoked in restaurants. You smoked in bowling alleys, bingo halls, stores. You smoked everywhere.
Yeah.
You smoked in hospitals, even in hospitals.
So I do have this. I mean, we can do okay, all these things that we always have to project for future conversations because the weaves could go on forever. I
Yeah.
believe that the tobacco testosterone effect is real. If you think about the way people
Maybe.
behave, yeah, it's like
Yeah, could
I'd
be.
smoked in college and in grad school, and tobacco is very motivating.
Yeah, the nicotine's its effects are real.
Its effects are real, and the it's
Very
like
energetic.
the not just the stimulant, right, but the sort of drive to be something, to do.
Mm.
I mean, it's like it was very felt helpful getting through grad school with it because you're
Ah,
trying to motivate yourself through this adventure. It's got to be a reason that the United States was founded on tobacco.
that's a good point.
Raleigh, and it has a
Yeah.
lot to answer for, right? Here
Mm.
we are. Here we are. Ginned up, and
Would be,
and that it's your dad, right, with the kid with the sparkler. Here, hold the sparkler.
yeah.
Well, we
Yeah.
had
Well,
those
this for
sparklers. I
yeah.
remember those.
No, it's so funny. We weren't allowed to have that because my dad thought they were dangerous, but then they bought us lawn darts. So, you know, the lawn darts were fun.
But it's like we have a skateboard park in our park now, and watching the guys do their stuff, right? It's like you got to have skin knees, and you've got to fall off
Yeah.
stuff, and you've got to have to deal with
Hmm.
the dynamics of a playground, which is social, right? So never mind, how
Yeah.
brutal people are to each other in high school.
Yeah.
Some kind of engagement with each other so that you learn how to deal with, yeah, somebody's going to call you names, and then you came up with the great one here
Yeah.
which was everyone wants to be accepted and liked except Gen Xers. Gen Xers don't give a shit.
We really don't.
Well, I mean, I do kind of, right? But on the other hand,
Yeah, to a point,
on the
but
other hand, it's
we're not going to film ourselves crying on TikTok and screaming because we didn't get away.
I do. I mean, it's
Anyway,
like as a Gen Xer, therefore with zero access to God, why you guys are so convinced that that's going to work? Why are you guys so convinced that's going to work? Like, who did it work?
has it worked before?
Well, it certainly didn't work for us.
Yeah. No. 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 The punishment would have been swift and brutal if we'd have tried that. And I don't just mean parents. I mean anybody. You don't do this with your teachers. You don't do this with anybody. You just don't.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so Calvin and Hobbes, great Gen X cartoon. Well, he's not. Waterston was older than we are, but he was drawing it for us.
Yeah.
And there's one, Calvin falls down and nobody's around, so he has to like go through panel after panel after panel to get home. Wah!
Until somebody sees it.
He gets to his mom, right, and then he can cry,
Yeah.
right? But until before that,
Yeah.
there's you don't have a temper tantrum when there's nobody around, because
Right. Right.
um I have been thinking since the Gen X vote became out clear, and it's like, and everybody's saying it's like we just wanted to be left alone. Yeah,
That's right.
and that
Yeah.
I mean that
And what are kids left
we
alone?
spent all of our growing up definitely believing in the meritocracy, working hard. I mean, this someone
Yeah.
be talking about this thing now. Got kids and grandkids now, and homes and careers that we've built, and I mean the stuff that happened with COVID over the last few years, like the threat of what was going to happen, and guys, we grew up with the Soviets are going to bomb us any second.
Yeah. And somebody had mentioned that we went. I saw one of the comment threads. So we went through drills. We never went through drills because we knew we were going to die.
Yeah.
We knew. I mean, that was something that was done in the 1950s with the A bomb, where you
Yeah,
actually might have
no,
lived through
we
it.
never did the drills. Are you kidding?
No, we never
Stupid.
did drills because we weren't dealing with atomic bombs. We were dealing with nuclear bombs. Nobody lives through those. We knew
Right.
that. So that's what we grew up with. we might die. At a certain point, you had to make a decision to not let that bother you. And that was kind of a big deal, at least in my life. Then when I made the decision to not let that bother me, I didn't. Uh, Despite CNN's best efforts to terrify me on a daily basis in the early '80s.
So
So
that's
thank you, mass media.
so that's what's different, because on the one hand, we grew up very happy in the 80s, even though we were about to be bombed all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bomb threat went away allegedly because 1989. And you could say that the millennials have grown up with the climate change terror, which
Can't,
they're still
yeah,
caught in.
that's more like a religious cult in my estimation, because they don't have a threat of dying immediately. They say we might die, we might die. It's kind of like a doomsday
Mm,
cult,
mm.
which is more religious, whereas the nuclear threat was, yeah, I might not wake up tomorrow. If you listen to CNN constantly, and it was new then, 24-hour cable news was new then, and
True.
that's what they did to keep people hooked. They talked about a constant threat of nuclear annihilation. And if you're a young teenager and a girl, especially, and girls tend to be a little more sensitive, that can be very hard. So you had to make a decision to not listen to it and to not let it bother you. So when we see somebody crying over an election,
Mm.
we're a little baffled, to put it mildly.
Well, like I said, I do kind of think I understand what's going on, because I remember the sort of desire to post on social media when I was feeling sad.
Mm.
But um I mean, literally the worst thing that's ever happened to them is COVID.
Yeah, and
And
yeah,
and not being aborted by their moms. So that's good, right?
yeah, yeah. I think the worst thing that ever happened to them was being abused by their government
Yeah.
by COVID. That was monstrous what was done to those
Yep.
kids in high school and
Yep.
college and grade school.
Well, those are the
I'm
Z's.
not
They're the
I'm
ones
not,
voting for
yeah,
Trump now, which is like it's
yeah, I'm not
complicated with
exaggerating. It's monstrous.
it's like here.
The psychological abuse these kids were put through because, yeah, people need to pay for that. And yes, the Gen Z's, like, they're just going into high school and college, and they remember, and they're voting accordingly.
So happily, the Gen Xers as hobbits. Here we go. Our hopes now lie with a few million little hobbits somewhere in the swing states. It turned out it's in fact it was the I think it's the hobbits in the swing states. It's also all of the troops that they sent out to make sure, metaphorical troops, watching the election
Right,
returns.
right. Who was it that called us hobbits? Somebody actually called us hobbits, the people who were voting for Trump last time. I can't remember who that was, though. So that's an extra poignant
Well, they're all,
meme.
here's Galadriel talking to the squirrel, right? I mean, the Lord of the Rings memes are great because they're convinced reading Lord of the Rings makes you, I don't know what.
They show white
White
supremacists now,
supremacist,
apparently.
yes.
Yeah,
Because Shire?
because European culture, right, is real and it should be destroyed.
Well, I mean, the
Oh,
Shire
okay,
is what people,
no.
I mean, it's like what people think you really want is the Shire, which is your local government. It's not
Yeah,
fascist, right? Aragorn is like the most hands-off king there is. That's the point of him. But at
yeah,
the end, he visits the Shire occasionally, but lets them get on with their own. And the hobbits have to go back and govern themselves.
yeah.
Like they have to get rid of
Right. They
Sharky, who
just
shouldn't
wanted
have.
to be left alone, didn't
But
they?
I mean, Aragorn has to make the point that you're protected because you don't realize what horrors are
Yeah.
out there. But that
Right. But that wasn't that also the point, though. They just wanted to be left alone. They didn't want to get involved in these larger things going on around them, and then they had to.
Well, that's more the Ents. I think the Ents really have to be
Hmm.
roused, right? The hobbits just don't realize there are anything going on outside of them,
Oh,
and
like the Amish.
a
Yeah.
little. Well, I think yeah, the hobbits originally are oblivious to the fact of anything going on
Right.
outside, and everything outside of them is queer, right? Tolkien says that a lot. It's queer,
Hmm.
it's like folks in Bree are queer, right? So they're anybody
Oh,
outside of what they know as their neighbors is. And so when the fellowship for leave, that's very, very strange, right? Nobody leaves. But then when
Yeah.
they come back, they have to come back with the, sort of experience to be able to deal with the fact that the Shire's been invaded by Saruman, and take care of
Mm.
that. And they don't get any help from
Yeah.
Aragorn on that, right? There's no fascist, help from Gondor. They have to go and deal with
Yeah.
Saruman themselves. Yeah. You want to talk about the squirrel now?
Yeah.
Okay, here we are.
I'm waiting for that.
So we got who expected? I mean, this is like, never mind all of the stuff we've been talking about. Who had a communist bureaucrat killing a pet squirrel for November as the thing that would happen right before the voting? To find
It's
out
so absurd.
that, it's like yes, the government really will, Sharky will show up and kill your pets.
This is one of the most consequential squirrels deaths in history, if not the most consequential death of a squirrel. Yeah, it's
It's a
astounding.
true, like poets, for want of a nail the horse, the shoe was lost, for want of the shoe the horse was lost, for the horse the battle was lost, for
Yes.
want of the battle the kingdom was lost. And it's like, well, okay, fine. So we
Yeah.
have the squirrel.
This is in reverse.
I'll tell you something. The weird thing of the squirrel was the day it happened. I was in the park, our park. There had been some squirrels that had died and fallen out of the trees,
Oh,
and the
really?
bodies were there, and nobody came and picked them up, and the dogs mainly ignored them, so we didn't, nobody picked them up. And then the day of the squirrel, one of the dogs grabbed the dead squirrel body and was like frolicking off with it. And
Yeah.
oh, that
Rolling
was
around
one
on it.
happy
Yeah.
dog. And she really didn't want to give up that squirrel.
Well, it smells extra
Oh
stinky. It's
yeah, by that
great.
point it was pretty fragrant, right? So I was like, the squirrels. Here we have the oh, but if you strike me down, I will become more powerful than you could possibly imagine. Obi Pinot Kenobi. Yes, indeed it happened.
Yes. Yes, it did.
I mean, it is kind of wild. I mean, it's sort of delightfully whimsical that the thing that got everybody activated right at the end was a pet.
It was a defensive, tiny, fluffy little squirrel.
Yes, the got
Yeah. And his buddy Fred, the raccoon,
which nobody
who shall
remembers.
not be
Fight, fight,
forgotten.
fight. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
It fits our theme of localism, which is what the completely useless subsidiarity term means. I wish they'd come up with a better term so that you could say it means care for things in your neighborhood, care for things locally, care for the
Oh,
squirrels, care for your school board, care for
yeah.
your town, care for the police that work in your city. What we really need is cities that care for themselves. Right. The thing is, I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of the people that are, the problem with cities is their transient populations. They come in, which is why why the populations in the cities can be abused by landlords and,
Yeah.
hire, so unscrupulous hiring and stuff, because you get people that never truly belong
Yeah.
there.
They don't put any roots down. It's just a place to park for a while.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, I think that the millennials, the kids that are, trying to live under these circumstances, and their big dream is, I mean, Vox talks about this a lot, right? You go to the city, you don't mean to, like, that's where you go for your adventure. You're not looking to get
Right.
married and settle down. But
Yeah.
that is unpopular opinion. The ladies who've all decided not to have sex anymore want to have sex.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think what they really want is someone to take care of them so they can have children. And they're frightened now because they've
Right.
been
Because they don't think,
they've been
yeah.
twisted into thinking that the only way they're going to get a man is if they sleep around. It's like, it's so
That's right.
backwards.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's turned inside out. It's upside down.
When
But you're right. Yeah, they've been told that they need to be what used to be called promiscuous, right?
yes, yes, they've
And
been taught that they have to do that. And I think deep down they're
and that they'll be
worried that
shunned if
if
they're
they
not.
don't do that, nobody will care for them.
No, that's absolutely correct. Yeah. That's yeah. They think they need to do this, and yeah, they don't want to be socially shunned. It's kind of sad. They need to meet a better class of men. That's just it. But they need to realize that they're worth that too.
Yeah, both. Well, and
You
the
know?
men, I mean, it's like you're mad at all these guys that voted for Trump. It's like those are the guys that are going to hopefully man up
Yeah,
and take care of their
exactly.
homes and their communities and their
Yep.
families
And the
and their
kids,
kids.
right? Right.
Yeah, so we're joking about being Gen X, right? My dad left us. That's Gen X. No fault divorce.
Yep, that's right. There was a lot of divorced
A lot
kids.
of divorced
I, you
kids,
know, I
a
what?
lot of abortions. The 70s were
Mm-hmm.
horrific, right? And we survived
And yeah,
because, oh yeah, the adults spent all the time hanging out with, cigarettes and sparklers and saying, oh, the kids will get over it. I mean, we did.
kids bounce back. Yeah,
But we
that's it.
have the scars, right? We still have the scars, and there's lots of studies out showing that, in fact, those of us who are the age when all of those divorces were happening, it's like I know that too, right? There've been longitudinal studies on the divorced kids, 25 years. They followed some of them for 25 years, like us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Us messed up on a lot of different levels for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
the lie that was told us was, oh yeah, it'll be fine, you can have
right.
abortions and divorce, and it's like, no, we're here to say no, fight, 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 stop it.
Yeah, yeah. The human heart's always going to want love and stability
Right.
and family and community, which is why cities aren't a bad thing, right? Because it's where people gather together and they can do wonderful things together, just like you can in a small town in a
Right.
country. But both of those have in common is that people are coming together,
Yes, we need each
right?
other. We belong.
Yeah.
People make cities. I keep saying it's like people make cities. Cities are our great artifact. Just because the city's broken doesn't mean city is the bad thing. It means
Hmm.
we need to. It's like, so the look at me. I'm George Floyd now, right? It's like
Yeah.
the
That's a good
cause
one.
the cause to fight for now is taking care of the creatures, right? That's a great. It's like we hear with Trump. Whoops, I lost my moment here. um, Pet lives matter, right? But American
Yep.
lives
That was,
matter.
yeah.
Our lives
Yeah.
matter. Our country matters. All of those, we made the joke about are the celebrities in Canada yet? It's like, guys, if you care about your country, you show up to the speech,
Yep.
you show up to your neighborhood, you show up to your family.
Show up for life.
I, I,
Show up for
I've
it.
got myself wound up now, right? And I've clearly drunk enough wine to have my Scots Irish Presbyterian German come through. White
Whiskey
privilege,
or moonshine for that.
white privilege. I reposted this because I wrote this. I wrote that white privilege back. I wrote that back in 2017, right after the first time that we were celebrating Trump's election. And I'm like, white privilege,
Mhm.
you bet I've got it. Grew up in the South. I hear about it all the time. You kids are so lucky. And I talked about this, like the grown-ups would say is, you kids are so lucky your mom takes care of you. It's
Yeah.
like she was taking care of us by herself. I don't want to
Yeah.
hear. I'm Kamala Harris growing up in a one-parent family. Fine, so did I.
So did a lot of people. Correct. That's not unusual.
You show up.
Hmm.
Sorry. I'm so mad. I'm so sick of people not showing up.
Yeah. But as you pointed out, whether these women realize it or not, they want to, and they want the men to show up for
Oh
them.
yeah.
And that's a good thing.
But the women need to show up for the men too, right? It's like it's mutual and
They
all. It's like,
do.
you do not leave your husband.
No, you don't. Yeah. Because there's a reason that it was, for better or worse, because if we didn't put those in the vows, who wouldn't just take off every time they got ticked off? Guilty,
Yeah.
I've been married for 22 years. Think about that. At 22 years.
30.
And
but he's my second
yeah.
husband. I didn't play the first round as well as I'd like. Right. So yes, guilty.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, who hasn't been married for as long as you and I have? Not to each other. Sounded weird. Who haven't been married for, 20, 10, 20 years, 1 year, it crosses your mind. What am I doing here?
Yeah.
This is why we take vows publicly in front of witnesses, because it matters. And it matters for the community. It matters for you, for your own personal growth, but it matters for your community too, for your wider community. It hurts everybody. It hurts your kids. It hurts your extended family. That it just goes out in these ugly ripples, right?
All of it.
It's worth preserving.
All of it.
It's always worth preserving.
And I mean, it's interesting with Trump. Is like always had three. I mean, one of the nicer pictures that came out of the Mar-a-Lago, celebration was the whole group of them. Right? It's like there was a cute little video with some of his grandchildren saying like, Granddad's working at McDonald's.
I saw that.
If there's nothing else, it's like Trump is surrounded by his family, right? They worked for him on this campaign. Barron gave him the advice about going on, the different podcasts and stuff. This is, guy, that's a great thing to aspire to. Be
it
the
is.
kind
It's
of father
wonderful to see.
Not that you end up as poor Hunter Biden.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd rather be one of the Trumps than one of the Bidens.
For sure. Yeah, definitely for sure.
Yeah. You got to show up. And this is I was thinking about this. Okay, so we have our last slide is America can only be saved by returning to Christ. This is true.
Yeah. And our founders said that. We can back into elections. This republic, this form of government is, I'm going to paraphrase now, is will work only for a religious people. Yeah. And he meant Christian, because it was a Christian country at the time.
And the thing is, I think because only, the religious people has to be able to take, I was thinking about this, it's like, so I'm crying because I'm like Presbyterian. Catholic, I don't know whether I'm Presbyterian Catholic now. You show up, right? You've got to show up. And this is, always what I have my doubts about all sorts of things about, Trump's decisions in different COVID, right? He showed up.
Mm-hmm.
He showed up. He kept showing up.
He showed up.
And he showed up. It's like back to say over and over again, being called names, being slammed, being
slandered, being unjustly prosecuted.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Over and over and over again.
Shot at once, and nearly missed being shot at again. And yeah, it's shocking what this man went through. And he's impressive. This is an impressive man. And he shows up over and over again despite hardship. And and as far as COVID is concerned, he showed up and brought RFK Jr. with him, who he was going to ask in his first administration to look into vaccines.
Really?
I don't know why that didn't happen. Yes, he was going to appoint him, but Trump was surrounded by basically, bureaucratic snakes, in my opinion. So he's not going to make that mistake a second time, obviously, since he brought him on his campaign the day after he was shot.
Right.
And RFK Jr. very graciously said yes.
Yes. After being a lifelong Democrat like Harrison Ford.
That's right. And so did his running mate. So did his running mate, Shanahan.
Right.
And that was, and they're like, let's just put our differences aside and let's work on what we can agree on, which is we need to look at these vaccines and we need to look at the food supply and the agriculture, because it's all awful. So yes, he can learn. He showed up and he learned and he grew.
Well,
That's a wonderful thing.
and the thing is, we're saved by returning to Christ because it means we can have the humility to learn
Yes.
and the humility and courage to show up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Show up.
Show up.
Even if it's it's to concede. You show up.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's what adults do. That's what learning people do.
Yes. So I'm gonna have to figure out what happened to my YouTube. Can show up next time.
She needs to learn.
I need to learn.
Need to learn how to do that. No, I can't talk. I don't know how to do any of it.
Well,
so.
Okay. They're happening. It's something else is happening in Telegram right now. It's like we lost them. They all went to bed. They didn't stay up.
Well, it's not election night.
Right.
We're not as exciting.
Well, I can. So sorry.
Exciting.
I mean, we're sorry for those of you who wanted to watch on YouTube. I did, set it up on my Substack saying, please come. And then I don't know why it didn't go out because I did set it up. I clearly didn't click the right thing. I don't know what's happening. Or maybe YouTube's banning us already. Show up. That's our lesson tonight.
I'm going to brag about that if that's the case.
What that we've already been banned off of YouTube for having we weren't even laughing at anybody except for the celebrities.
I was laughing a little bit.
So we are here to say tonight, thank you very much, Mr. President-elect, for your service to our country and to our families and to our nation. And we will do our best to hold you to your promises.
Yes, we will.
Over the next 4 years. But thank you, Mr. President. Good night.